Okay, let me start my stream first. See if that's running. It's probably going to be okay.
Sure. Anyways, Peter hosts a bunch of YouTubes, which he'll go into detail here in a minute. Not hosts, hosts and works on in the background as well. He's very active in the atheist community, and he's an advocate for atheism.
That's correct. I mean, I started my own channel I think it was back in 2015. Been active on there off and on. So I've had times where I wasn't all that active on that particular channel, but yeah. And then a couple of years ago, I started producing for several people. And that's been a lot of fun. So currently I produce for Aaron Raw, Jackson Wheat, and Jefferson Spatchcock. And yeah, cool people to work with. And the fun part is I get to talk to some really cool people. So talk to the guy who found Lucy, talk to the guy who found Tiktaalik, one of the main cosmologists, John Carroll, my favorite Bible scholar, Francesca Stavrokopoulou. So, I mean, I'm living the dream.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, we do have one person in the audience with their hand raised. Lots of percentiles.
Hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
Hello, it's me, Percentage, also known as Clay. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Your audio is a little low. Can you bump it up just a little bit?
Yes. Yes, there you go. Can you hear me
That's
now?
Yeah, that's better.
Great, great. So, I wanted to know, who are you?
My name's Peter de Tucker. I'm from the Netherlands. I live in just outside a tiny village, just on the border, on the German border, Dutch-German border. And yeah, I'm an atheist. The reason I am on social media is because I bumped into a Kent Hovind video. Thought that it would be impossible for people to actually believe what he was saying. This was the 100 reasons why evolution is stupid. And so that's where I started my Twitter account. For lack of a name, I thought I'm going to go for it, meaning that I'm going to see whether or not we can help people learn actual science instead of the thing that Hovind was spouting. So that's where the name comes from. Back then, I was anonymous because I do work with my best friend who is a Christian, and the two of us, we do make stuff for churches. So I thought it wouldn't be really good for me to have an atheist activist channel while also being in business with churches. And then at some point he found out and he said, well, if people are not going to buy our artwork because of you, they don't deserve our artwork. So that's when I started using my real name. And so now I'm known as Peter de Tucker, which is
what, like an advocate for atheism?
Yeah, you could say that's how I started out, and that's pretty much what I'm still doing right now. Well, not so much an advocate,
religion, right?
Not so much an advocate for atheism as I'm questioning the beliefs of people. I mean, that's pretty much what my channel started out with. I started doing talks with theists to see whether or not their claim holds water, and so far I haven't come across one that at least convinced me. Not saying it's not, there might not be a God, although I strongly believe there isn't one. But I could be wrong. I'm not perfect.
Do you know who Darth Dawkins is?
Oh yeah.
What do you think about him?
He doesn't seem to like me, but if he's in the room, he will always pull me up on stage to argue and then eventually boot me. I think he's he's the presuppositionalist, and you can argue about people's character, which I don't think that he's someone who has a lovable character because he likes to put people down, which I pride myself in having conversations. We don't want to have dumpster fires. We want to have a respectful conversation with our guests, and that also means that I'm now vetting my guests so that we can have those conversations instead of dumpster fires. They don't work for me. I don't like to insult people, call people names. I don't like to be called names, so I'm not going to allow that on our channel. And since I've been I have since been joined by several people who are hosting on the channel, so it's no longer my channel, it's our channel. But it's hard to step away from the name Gonna Go For It, since I that was my name on social media for such a long time.
It's quite Christian of him, isn't it? Believe me, or I will disrespect you.
Yeah, I mean, and there are a few others. I had a conversation with Saiten Bruggenkate, who a lot of people hate. I got along pretty well with Sai. Maybe that's because he has Dutch roots. I don't know. He did rage quit on my show, but got back and talked to me after I ended the show, and we still ended on a friendly note, which I think is at least that's my goal. I want people not to get disappointed or aggravated while doing our show. Although I do understand that sometimes when people hold a belief, for some people it's part of their identity. That is something that I had to learn over time because I've never been religious. But for some people, their religion is part of their identity. So I could make a comment which could come across as being disrespectful or hurtful. And I always tell people that is not my goal. I don't like it when that happens, but I mean, it happens every once in a while. And if people will just tell me, hey, that hurt me, and then explain to me why it hurt, then I'm willing to talk about it. I'm not, as I said, I'm not in it to be disrespectful or hurtful towards people.
Mm-hmm. Right. Got another question for you. People who talk about precepts and shit like that bring this up all the time. So I'm wondering, do you think that you are a brain in a vat, or do you think your existence is, as they say, real? What do you think?
So this is something that we cannot prove. For me, it's really not an issue, because if I'm a brain in a vat, then I still have to deal with the reality as I perceive it. So for me, it wouldn't change. I don't think I'm a brain in a vat.
But why do you not think you're a brain in a vat?
Because so here's the easiest thing is that I see people do things that I cannot do, and I really wish I could. If those people are part of my imagination, then I should be able to do the things that they do. And apparently I can't. So to me, that's a clue. And as I said, it's something that you can't disprove. And so it's really not an issue for me. I still have to deal with the reality that I find myself in, which is pretty much the same thing as you would have an avatar in a game. The avatar in the game doesn't know that he's an avatar in a game. He knows what you know. He does what you tell him to do. But he has to deal with the reality he finds himself in, or he or she or it, or whatever you want to call it. So they can't escape that reality. They're confined to that reality, and they're constrained by that reality. And so it doesn't really matter to me. Not something that I think about or like to think about.
Right, but you don't think that we are in some kind of simulation. That's something you don't believe we are, right?
I don't think so. But as I
Okay.
said, it's not something that we can prove.
Interesting, interesting. Well, it depends on what do you mean by proving, but that's fine. Okay, yeah. I just have one more question for you, and then I will head out, okay?
Okay.
I'm Jewish, by the way. Do you have any issues with that, me being Jewish?
No. Why should I? And as I said, my best friend is a Christian. I've got Muslim friends. I have at least one friend who used to be a practicing Jew, Orthodox Jew. So
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, um, I think religion is wrong, and a lot of people do bad things just based on their religion. I tend to judge people on their acts, not on what they believe or why they believe it. I'm friends with one of the most extreme things probably is a Christian, a flat earther, a guy who lost probably everyone in his life because of his position. I still get
Wait,
along
give me a
with him,
second.
and
Give me a
so
second.
go ahead,
I want to ask you about something you just said.
go
So
ahead.
you just said that you judge people on the way they act, not what they believe in. But wasn't your initial statement that your whole gig about being atheist and atheist advocate is that you don't believe there is a God? So wouldn't that then mean that you're also against the belief that a lot of religious people have?
So the way I would explain that is I want people to believe things that are true, things that we can demonstrate to be true, and not believe in things that because some of the religions we can demonstrate to be false based on their religious books. So if
So you do have an issue with religious people's beliefs, not just the way they act.
I have an issue with some of the beliefs and the way
Good.
the way people use their beliefs in order to inflict the lives of others. I have no problem with someone believing something that I know is not true. As I said, I'm friends with a flat earther. I think we can agree that there's evidence enough that the earth isn't flat. That doesn't mean that this guy isn't a good person, even though he believes all the wrong things. He just doesn't. He's not that militant about it that he will attack people over his beliefs and forces other people to believe just like he does. At least that's not my uh, that he never did that with me. He tried to convince me, but he's not forcing anything on me. He's not trying to legislate anything according to his beliefs. He wants people to
Right, I
believe it,
understand.
but he doesn't want to force it on people. So I'm fine with that.
Right, so you don't have an issue with people's beliefs, you just have an issue with how they act upon their beliefs.
If they're going to enforce it on others, yes. I'm not forcing
Right.
anyone to be an atheist. I'm not. I want to eradicate religion, but not by legislation. That has to be done through education.
Education, what do you mean by that? Please explain what you mean.
Um, okay, good example. The guy who believes the earth is flat. If he didn't get a decent education. Um,
Wait, so you're saying that there is objective evidence as to why God does not exist? Because there is objective evidence as to why the Earth is not flat.
I would go the other way. I would say that to me there is no evidence that a God does exist, which leads me to at least withhold that belief until there's good evidence for it.
But that doesn't make any sense. Just because you don't believe that a God exists because you don't believe that a God exists. Just you can't just enforce it on other people in a
No,
society. That
but
doesn't make any sense.
you can have other people think about their position to see whether or not their position
Yeah,
holds
but
water.
you're just teaching. In that case, you're just teaching them a rhetoric that you agree with. Don't
It's
you think
not a
that's wrong?
rhetoric.
Yes, it is,
How
because there isn't objective evidence as to why God does not exist. You don't know for a fact that God doesn't exist, do you?
it depends on the God.
Which God in one of the major religions do you have objective evidence for that does not exist?
I would say the Abrahamic God,
Really, why?
because of the attributes that he has according to the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. Those are
If
mutually
there is
exclusive.
if there is objective evidence that the Abrahamic God does not exist, why are people still following Abrahamic faiths? Explain.
You can so you can believe things based on the wrong reasons. I mean, I've done that, and I'm
Don't you think
willing.
it's very, very naive to think that people would still believe in a God that's objectively been proven as not real? Don't you think that's like a super naive thought to have?
The problem with a God belief is that it's not an objective belief; it's a subjective belief.
Exactly, but saying that God doesn't exist either is also subjective. That's kind of my point here. And you use the example with flat Earth, which
Mhm.
objectively can be proven. You can't objectively prove that a God in, say, Christianity doesn't exist. And if you do, please prove it.
According to the laws of logic, if someone is going to present a God that is both omniscient and omnipotent, that God, by sheer logic, cannot exist. So
Why? Explain.
why?
You're
Why?
saying something like really abstract.
Yes.
Explain what you mean.
Well, explain what I mean. If a God is omniscient, he knows all final outcomes. So
Okay.
if this God would know that I will die as an atheist, and he's omnipotent, can he change my mind? No, because he knows the final outcome, which is me not changing my mind. So he's not omnipotent, or he's not omniscient, and he can change my mind. Either way, he cannot be both at the same time. So therefore, that particular God cannot exist.
It's an interesting way you argue it, and I definitely don't know enough about the Bible or the Torah or the Quran to comment on what you just said.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing, and this is, I think, a mistake that I have made for a very long time when I started out my channel. When I talk to people, I ask them what they believe, and they will tell me the kind of God and the attributes he has, she or it has, and then I go from there. What I would find dishonest is, let's say that I would be talking to a Christian, and then I would quote the Bible and say, okay, you now believe this. That is wrong, because not everyone interprets what is read in the Bible in the exact same way. So what I do instead is ask them what they believe, and then we can at least talk about a specific thing without having to strawman people. The same thing goes the other way around. If people say, well, you're an atheist, therefore you believe this and this and this, I find that dishonest. If you want to know what I believe and what I do not believe in, ask me and I will tell you, and we can talk about it. So, and I think this is something that a lot of people that I've seen in the community still do wrong. If you're talking to a Christian, you can talk to two different Christians who hold completely different beliefs. And if you're going to attack one Christian for the beliefs that he doesn't hold, but some other Christian does hold, I find that dishonest, and it doesn't help the conversation.
Okay, that's fine. I think you're an interesting figure. Just gonna ask one
Well,
last question, and then
thanks.
I'll leave. So, do you prefer the deer or the fish? Which one do you prefer?
The deer or the fish?
Yeah, which one do you prefer?
I don't think so. I live in a forest, so
Mm-hmm.
having deer around the house is pretty common. I've also had for the longest time. When I was living in town, I had a pond with several koi carp in it, so I like those as well. I mean,
But which one do you prefer? If you had to choose one, which one do you prefer? The deer or the fish?
just based on my situation at the moment, the deer, because
You
it's
prefer the
it's
deer?
it's fun to see them walking around the house. So
Okay, so you prefer the deer. That's fine. All right. Anyways, hope you get some
can I
more
ask
good
you why you
questions.
asked
Goodbye.
that question?
It's just a preference question I like to ask people, if they prefer the deer or the fish.
Oh, okay.
Prefer the deer or the fish? Which one they prefer? The
Okay.
deer or the fish? Anyways, goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks for coming on.
We've got V Debs up next with a pressing question for Peter.
Ooh, I like that.
Hello. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
I'm happy to hear that. I just had a couple of quick questions. So, I'm not very well acquainted with your works or your beliefs, so I did have a couple of just like introductory questions um get more acquainted to your beliefs. If that's
Sure.
all right.
Sure.
Okay, so how do you think the universe came into existence?
So I was lucky enough to host a conversation between Arn Ra and Sean Carroll, and I have to say that, and don't ask me about the specifics, but the arguments that Sean Carroll puts forward for the universe being eternal, and what we saw, what what happened, what we called the Big Bang, is just a change of state. And to me, that makes a lot of sense. I'm not a cosmologist. I'm not into physics a lot. So I I tend to go with what the experts in the field tell me, and so that seems to be the case.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm aware of the theory you're talking about just the change of state and not the Big Bang not being really the creation of the universe.
You,
Uh,
you broke up a little. And now you're completely silent. Can't hear you.
Debs, you there?
I think he's got an audio issue.
Here, I'll move you back to the audience, and then we'll pull you back up, and we'll see if that fixes it.
all right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so I think I know what you're talking about. You did talk about just with this last question or last questionnaire. You said the laws of logic say an omnipotent God cannot exist. Um, I do follow your logic with that, but
I have to
as
correct it
another
slightly.
challenge,
I have to correct it slightly.
Mhm.
I said if that is how the God is presented to me by a specific theist, because there are several ways how people interpret the Bible, and so the omnipotent uh, usually was explained as to be all powerful, Some Christians will now say it's not all powerful; it's maximally powerful, and others will say that God can do everything that is logically possible. So there are different views when it comes to the attributes of God, and so I tend to go with what people tell me they believe. But
Right. That makes sense.
9 out of 10 times it is as I said, and so that's where I can then jump in and say, okay, according to logic, this isn't possible.
Yeah, and I understand that. I think that that's a very interesting take, and I think that I'd like to follow the take myself. But what strikes me as also illogical at the same time is the concept of eternal existence of the universe. According to human logic, everything has a start. Everything that has a start has an end as well. Or even if it doesn't have an end, it must have a start. Something must create something. And to say something has just always existed is paramount to saying that a God has always existed and a God still does exist. So I'm a little bit confused on how you're so certain that certain gods cannot exist while you do hold that the universe was simply eternal.
And so to me, that's a non sequitur. I don't see how you even equate the two, because the argument that I brought forward is uh, based on the attributes that a god has. When it comes to the universe, why is it eternal? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. And as far as things coming into existence without a cause, we've got examples of that as well. So I don't see any contradiction in what the experts tell me.
Okay, I understand that, but what I'm like a lot of religious fundamentalists say is that all right, yeah, what a lot of religious fundamentalists say is that God or a God is eternal or was eternal, and that they simply created themselves or something other similar to that. And for a universe to be eternal, it must have created itself at some point. I'm just kind of confused as to how you believe that there was no point and that it has consistently just existed without any creation, just as a god will have existed simply of creating himself.
I,
I'm just not really sure how both
as I
only
said,
one can be illogical.
as I said, um, I'm going based off of the evidence. When it comes to a god,
Right.
I still don't have any evidence that a god exists. So I don't have to accept anything about those claims until someone can bring me sufficient evidence for a god. We do have evidence enough that the universe exists. Uh,
What evidence is that?
so we can investigate the universe. We can make observations, have them independently confirmed.
Okay,
We
um,
can't do
that makes
anything
sense.
like
Yeah.
that with a god, unless.
All right, I definitely see where you're coming from with that.
Mhm.
Um, and how I I think I see what you're saying. I also had another clarifying question about your beliefs, which was, do you think humans or animals or any commonly regarded intelligent species are sentient, or are we just matter with chemical reactions? Because I know there are a lot of atheists that think that humans are just matter with chemical reactions, and there are some atheists that just think there was no God, even if humans are sentient. So, where do you stand on that?
I think we're a chemically based life form. that has developed sentience, but I also think we're not the only ones. We see sentience in lots of other animals. We see sentience in dogs, for instance. We see compassion in dogs. Uh, we see the same thing in dolphins. We see it in tons of other creatures. And so I think the sentience that's a scale. That's it's a gradient. It's not that some animals, a lot of animals are self-aware and do express compassion. We can see it. We can independently confirm that that is what is happening. And I think we only scratch the surface when it comes to that, because um, it could get us into trouble, um, into the way that we eat, because we have to kill other things in order to survive ourselves. And as we progress, um, we might have to change the way things are going right now.
Okay, that makes sense. So you see it as gradient, um,
Mhm.
and that gradient could potentially yield consequences. But if it's a gradient, what moves something off that the farthest left point on that scale of from non-sentient to fully sentient? What gets something a little bit sentient? Do you think it's a completely chemical thing, or do you think it's like something divine?
I think it's something that we acquired through evolution. I think it's something that any animal would acquire through evolution if it's beneficial to the species. And we see this uh, mostly in what we call social species. Um, for a social species, it is beneficial to have compassion. It will result in uh, the species surviving. So that's why it's beneficial. It's something
Right.
that
Okay.
we still don't know an awful lot about. I will grant you that, and I think we could benefit of having done more research on that and seeing where other animals are, because we're just animals. We're just the ones that have the biggest brains and have the ability to think and build things.
Oh
Although
yeah, I totally agree.
the apes are catching up. I mean, chimpanzees and bonobos are currently in the Stone Age. They're making stone tools. We can observe that. So they're slowly going the same way we did.
I totally understand the in evolutionary benefits of having sentience and compassion and those things. Um, but I'm more interested about the origin thereof. Do you think that it's like, obviously we are chemically based organisms,
Mhm.
but we do interact with each other and we do feel things and we do contemplate things and we do we do have a sense of self perception, and many people call that sentience. So I'm just wondering if you think that that came entirely from the evolutionary benefits thereof, or if there may be other factors at play that we don't know about.
As far as we can see now, there's a good explanation that we got that through the evolutionary process. So there are no indications that it came from something else. And even if we go back to the origin of life, there are several explanations at the moment that explain how we got from non-living organic material to living organic material. And so while we might not be able to say with 100% certainty how life arose on Earth, we can at least come to the conclusion that it is possible for life to arise on Earth without any outside influence. And so
Right.
we haven't seen anything else. We haven't seen something interact with the universe that would somehow violate the laws of physics, the laws of biology, or whatever. We haven't seen any of that.
Okay, so your beliefs are mainly based on what is observable.
Yeah,
Is that
things we
is that so?
things we can find out through the scientific method. That's not just observable, because we've got other lines of investigation that we can do.
Okay, that makes sense. Though, obviously there is the only it's not a dead end to try to look at things that aren't observable, right? Like there's
No,
reasons for believing in things that we don't know that are there, that we don't observe, that we can't observe. But
we still get new
mm,
evidence every day. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, the new telescope, and I keep forgetting the name. That got us images of galaxies that weren't supposed to be there. Uh,
right.
so in the earliest stages of the formation of the universe, we wouldn't expect galaxies to be um, uh, this struggling to find the word for it. This developed, and yet they found at least 5 new galaxies that shouldn't have been there, according to the current model. So that will need an investigation and see if we can come up with an explanation on how it got there that early. But that's the good thing of science. I mean, every single time new evidence comes in, we have to revise the knowledge we have today and adapt it according to the new evidence that comes in.
That's true. So if there was ever evidence of there being a divine being, you'd follow that evidence?
If there would be evidence for a god, and we could confirm that there was a god, that there was an entity that created the universe, obviously we would have to accept it. I mean, why wouldn't we?
Right.
We do that with everything else. So why would we make an exception when it comes to a god? That would be dishonest,
Um
at least in my opinion.
so yeah, I agree. But in the cases of, discovering new galaxies and stuff like that, like we've mathematically determined, like, the way there are new planets, like we determine based off of, one planet's going this way and it shouldn't be. So we devise that there must be a planet there, even if we haven't seen the planet, even if we haven't like observed the planet in any way, shape, or form. We just devise that there must be a planet there if it is affecting another planet. Why can't this logic apply to humanity and God? Because if we are sentient, if we are on that scale or gradient of sentience, then why can't we observe, like, it the possibility of sentience without a divine intervention in order to do so is similar to saying that this planet just orbits this way because it does. I think that it's it's similarly.
But it doesn't.
What do you mean?
The orbit of a planet is something that we can explain through physics. The origin of a planet we can explain through physics. The origin of a solar
We can
system.
assume through physics.
No.
Sometimes it's not absolutely certain the mass or the attributes or the physical characteristics of that planet. We just know that there must be a planet there, or a mass at least. Like we can't be absolutely certain of exactly everything about
Okay,
that
so
planet.
what the example that you're giving is if we're looking to a star that is far enough away that we cannot observe any planets surrounding it, through the measurements and the great tools that we have, we can see the wobble in the star. I mean, it's not that we are orbiting the sun because of the gravity of the planets. The sun is also orbiting the planets, just in a very slight way, something that just doesn't look like an orbit, but it still will have a wobble based on the gravity and the pulling of the planets on the sun. So, and since we can observe that in our own universe, we can apply the same method to stars that we see far away, so we can determine whether or not there are planets surrounding a specific star, and we can at least figure out what the mass of those planets would be based on the effect it has on the star. And as I said, I'm not a physicist. Most of that goes straight over my head. But the explanations, at least to me, make sense, and it seems to make sense to the people who are working in physics, and so they come to a specific consensus in determining their observations and how to explain those.
All right. That's all great. Thank you for answering my questions.
Mhm.
And have a good day.
Okay,
Thank you for coming up.
thanks for coming up, Dev.
All right, we've got Zell with a very interesting PFP. They're a registered penguin enjoyer. I don't know what to think about that.
Hello, can you hear me?
I mean, who doesn't enjoy penguins?
Yeah, right.
That's fair.
I mean,
Can you guys hear me?
loud and clear.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I just wanted to ask like one question. I don't really know how it works, but you were talking about this Darwinist approach, to explain how, well, how human beings are, and etc. And I thought about, well, humans have such a
Can I really jump in?
proclivity toward.
Can I jump in and ask you one question?
Yep. Yeah, sure.
When you say Darwinist approach,
Oh yeah. So basically, when you talk about evolution and how related to the previous discussion.
yeah, but so when this is a thing that I always find strange when people bring it up as a Darwinist explanation. So Darwin was one of few people who figured out that something like evolution must be happening. I mean, he wasn't the first. I recently learned, and I'm going to look into this and see if I can find it. There's a Muslim book that precedes Darwin, I think, by 1,000 years, in which there are explanations that are eerily similar to the things that Darwin discovered. I still can't find an English translation, and I don't speak Arabic. One of the things that I'm looking into this is because Arn Ra said that I showed him several articles on this guy, and he said, I need to make a video about this guy because that is amazing. Someone who preceded Darwin by at least 1,000 years, knowing a lot of things already that we attribute to Darwin of being the first of. So the whole thing, with evolution, it is a scientific theory, and that has progressed so much since Darwin came up with the idea that calling it a Darwinist approach, I mean, that's just silly. That would rule out most of what we know today. So that's why I always find it strange that people use that term.
Right, you did well to correct me on that. I'm just a boy. I don't know much about it. Sorry.
I mean, it's fine that you use it, but I'm always baffled why people would do that. And I like to be intellectually honest, and so when I talk about evolution, I'm not talking about Darwin's evolution. That was just the start of our investigation, and we know so much more. We know so much things that Darwin couldn't have dreamed of knowing. So,
Mhm.
but maybe that's just a pet peeve of mine. I mean, I'm not going to attack you if you want to still use the term. Feel free, because it's not a conversation ending thing for me. I'm curious about it.
I mean, well, it doesn't really matter to the question of, well, it was just, I was thinking about how suicidal thought, it's pretty present in human beings, and I would think that, well, if evolution favors, the things that make us survive more the most, why would we have such a proclivity towards suicidal thought? It wouldn't be such a stretch maybe to say that we can essentially almost think ourselves into depression. So it's just, what are your thoughts on that?
So, as someone who has suffered and at times still suffers from depression, I it's something that I still think we don't know a lot about, and we need to do more research into it. The reason that we can think and reason might be one of the things that at some point will tell us, okay, so what I would expect of life isn't going to happen. I can't deal with the problems that I'm facing, and so in my country, at least, um, you will get help if that is really what you want to do. Then you will be given the opportunity to end your life. I think that that is something that is a personal decision. Although I think we should have people, at least who have some knowledge of depression and some knowledge of mental illness, guiding those people and see whether or not they can help them and prevent them from wanting to end their life. But it's a hard question. I mean, and to me at least, what it boils down to, everyone has the right to do what they want, live their life as they want it, or if they so want to, end their life. Especially when it comes to people who are dealing with terminal diseases. I've had several friends that had a specific form of cancer and did not want to wait until the body is completely giving up. They wanted to not suffer in that way and just have a way out, and I think that's fair enough.
Well, yeah, although I would still say, well, maybe depending on age, right? I mean, aside from terminal diseases, um, usually we know that today it's a lot of young people that get these thoughts mostly. So I'd say it's hard to give so much of.
I don't think it's just young people. It's people of all
not
ages.
You're right. You're right.
It depends. It depends on so many factors. It depends on how they were raised in the circumstances they were raised in. I mean, there's just so much.
Yeah. Well, thanks, I see. So some people want to talk. So
I do have a
leave them-
question. I do have a question. What's the thing with the penguins?
Oh, the penguins. I do like penguins. Combining something that's cute with a gun always seems to be a good thing, right?
I mean, they seem very happy animals. So I like penguins. All I can say. Well, I was just curious.
Do you know the photos when penguins, you see the inside of their mouth? It's pretty scary.
Mm-hmm. Well, so on my avatar, you can see the bald eagle. Funny enough, my name's Peter the Tucker, and the bald eagle is he belongs to a friend of mine, and he named him Tucker. So that's a cool thing for me. That when I found out that he had him and he had given him this name, it's a bird I get to play with every once in a while. And I mean, nature is amazing. The animals we see around us, and the fact that we can have the interaction with a bald eagle. Who's basically just let loose every single day in a park nearby, and people can interact with the bird. I think that stuff like that makes us appreciate nature a lot more if you can interact with a wild animal in that way. And I can tell you it's pretty impressive when you're standing there with that glove on your hand and the bird's coming up to you. Yeah, the first time was pretty scary. I mean, it's the bird's not going to hurt you, but even though it's a big bird coming towards you.
Well, that raises a question. I just thought about you. You talk about relation to nature and wild animals. Do you think what do you think there is to that, and if today maybe we're losing something that's related to what you're describing?
I think a lot of people don't appreciate nature enough, and this is why I always advocate if you have children, make sure your children grow up with an animal, and I don't care if it's a dog or a cat or fish or whatever. Make them appreciate other life, and I think they will grow up better people.
All right. Oh no, they left. I'm sorry.
That's merely subjective, though. That's my opinion. I couldn't back that up, but I tend. So my observation is that people who interact with animals a lot usually are better people. I might be wrong. I don't have that. I don't have a scientific study backing that up.
I agree with you there.
Hey.
I got a couple dogs and a couple cats, and my kid loves them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, independent.
Denzel, you got anything else?
No, not really.
Well, thank you for coming up.
Thanks for coming up.
We appreciate you chilling up here with Peter. If anybody else would like to chat with Peter, I don't know how much longer you got, but you're welcome to raise your hand, or if you're wanting to start closing down, we can start closing down here in a little bit. What would you like to do?
I mean, if there are people who want to ask questions, we have a hand raised. So
perfect. Sephiroth, I'm inviting you up right now.
Before we go to Sephiroth, I want to say that I really like this opportunity to be here, because this is one thing that doesn't happen on my channel. On my channel, we have a set format. When we have guests on, we will talk about their beliefs. We start off with one question: what do you believe and why do you believe it? And they get offered a second show. The second show is where they determine the topic, and they won't tell us the topic until we are live, so we cannot prepare for what's being thrown at us. And for some reason, people don't come back and grill us on why we are an atheist, or how we come to the position, or try to defend our position. It never happens. And so this is one of the things where I at least get to talk about that position a little. So that's why I really appreciate you setting this up, Taco. So thanks for that.
Hey, we appreciate having you here, man.
Okay. Sephiroth, what do you got? Hello?
Hello, Sephiroth. Sometimes it glitches out. I'll move you back to the audience and invite you back up. That might fix it. And if anybody else would like to raise your hand, you're welcome to. Looks like they're having issues. So try backing out of Discord and then get back in Discord real fast. Like jump out of the stage and rejoin. That usually fixes it. That's really annoying that it does that too.
Okay. Oh, now it's working.
It works. Hey, Sephiroth.
Okay,
What's up?
I'm on a phone, so it'll be a little funny.
Yeah, it does that with phones when you sit in the stage for a while. It's really annoying.
Anyways, hi Peter. I was enjoying the conversations you're having. You seem like a very honest person.
I try to be.
Yeah, I came up with some questions just for the sake of talking about them.
Mhm.
One's a little more technical, and then one's a little more personal. And well, I'll start with the technical one and see if it goes anywhere. You were talking before you talked to Penguin Man about your conception of God, and you were both coming at it from a very, I guess, kind of a Christian point of view, where God is sort of this entity, maybe like above humanity or something like that. I'm wondering if you've ever considered, and if you have considered it, do you believe in more abstract forms of sentience than what you've described with humans? And some examples of that could be things like egregores or ecosystems or human systems like capitalism, sort of having a reproduction of their own and defense mechanisms and having a lot of thought put into them just by nature of all the animals and things that make them up.
I have to say, so I'm Dutch, so some of the words that you just
Yeah.
uttered, I have no clue what they mean.
Okay, okay.
The capitalism, I mean, capitalism is a form of society that we developed. I don't
Yeah.
see how that is a form of sentience.
Yeah.
I
Well,
may have
kind of what I'm leading
misunderstood.
to with it. I'll try and make it more understandable, because where I'm going with it is a lot of people have a personal relationship with God where they don't view God as this sort of separate thing out there, but maybe more as kind of the totality of everything. Like they would view consciousness as an inherent property of the universe, and God would just be the description for
Deism.
all of it. Yeah. Have you ever considered that?
No, because here's the thing. There's no evidence that the universe is sentient. So if people are going to propose that idea to me, then you have to come up with some evidence that the universe is in fact sentient and that it is doing things. And then
Okay.
you would need
So
an
you would
explanation
say it's
on
entirely emergent.
yes.
Okay. That is an interesting viewpoint, but I don't think I have much to argue with about it. And then another thing I was wondering about was, oh, that is weird. It is weird to say it's entirely emergent, as in only existing, because no matter what you define a sentience to be, like no matter what you come up with in a person that has it, there's going to be smaller scale recreations of that dynamic in nature somewhere. I mean, if you just say reproduction is sentience, or if you just say avoiding death is sentience, or just say fear is sentience, I mean, there's always going to be little parts of that in things that are less
Yes.
than human.
Exactly. And that is why I said it's a gradient. And
Yeah, I would
see
agree.
we see different animals being on a different place on that gradient. At least as far as what. So one of the things that really surprised me was that someone had done a study on meerkats, and they appear to have a language. They can, so they have their sentinels who are guarding the colony, and those can warn the others by literally saying, "There's a human coming towards us with a yellow shirt and blue trousers." They have a language that will do that. So they can't discern any gender from the thing that is approaching, but they do seem to have words in order to describe what is coming and why they should take cover and what they should look out for. And the fact that we start seeing this in more and more species is why I think there should be a lot more research in the sentience of specific animals. And I think that humanity as a whole could do better in treating animals and treating nature.
Yeah, I've been very curious about the language of animals myself recently. I suspect they can communicate more than we give them credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially with all those studies on crows. How do they say all that?
Crows are amazing. They can literally solve problems. So if you will present them food in a way where they can't get to it, they will devise tools and ways to get to the food. They can solve problems, and you can add problems to it. Another thing is, if people want to explore it, if I have some free time, it's one of the things that I look for on YouTube, is people who have complete courses to run for squirrels in their garden, where the squirrels have to be problem solvers in order to get to the final bonus, which is a lot of nuts. And if you watch those and see how these squirrels over time come up with solutions to the problems that they're presented with, it is amazing.
Yeah, and I bet they can show each other how to do it too.
Yes, they can teach.
I wouldn't
each
be
other.
surprised.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah,
and they learn. And they learn from
another.
They learn from the mistakes of others just by observing it, which is also cool.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of take the same stance. It's just there's a lot of people out there who, I don't know, they wouldn't describe it as entirely emergent, and I guess I can't really completely disagree. It's just that we don't have any way to communicate with anything other than a physical life form. So it's
how cool would that be?
Hard to state otherwise.
If we would figure out a way. Once we understand the language, and we could learn another language. We've done that with human languages, so it.
And then another example of these abstract systems that's been a little more studied would be a mycelium network, for example. I mean, there's some people think they're kind of wacko, but Paul Stamets and some other mycologists might try to argue that this kind of really entropic, chaotic, large system of the mycelial networks might have some sentience to it. And that would be a good example of this sort of more abstract, larger sentience that the rest of the world might have.
Yeah, see, and I honestly, I haven't looked into that a lot.
Me neither. I think they're a little weird.
I'm not saying,
and we don't have any proof either. It's just a thought experiment, really.
Yeah, but so if there was a sentience to the universe, it might be that we currently can't detect it. The moment we could detect it, that's when it becomes interesting, and that's when you could no longer deny it, and then we need to figure out where that's coming from and how it got there. So
that would be very interesting.
But who knows? We might find things in future. This is why you shouldn't say it doesn't exist. If there might be things that exist, but we haven't discovered them yet, which is why I love science, because it's progressing. Even though
I'm a huge fan of
limited in our tools that we currently have.
Huge fan of relativity myself, although it doesn't pertain to the topic too much.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I had, which was a little more personal, but I was wondering if you've ever, also sparked from the second previous conversation, I was wondering if you've ever had a personal experience that existed
yes,
very well outside the bounds of what is currently explainable?
I have,
and how has it affected you?
I have, and I've mentioned it a couple of times. So I talked about it on my own channel. I've talked about it on other people's channels. I have to go back. It was in 94 or 95, I think. I had an experience where I met aliens, and
Oh my god.
well, stick with me. So what happened
Yeah,
is,
well, was it
happened is-
middle of the day? Oh, go on.
what happened is I was a truck driver at the time, and I had to drive back and forth from where I live in the Netherlands to Basel in just outside Basel in Switzerland, still on the German part of the border. And so I had a set routine. I always stopped at the same rest stop along the way, which was 70 kilometers past Cologne in Germany. I would stop there every single time. And this time, when I got back in my truck, driving back to Basel, at some point I found an alien sitting next to me in the truck. I lost 24 hours, basically. I have only a few recollections of what happened. I know I saw the alien. I know I also stopped at some point along the highway where I had never stopped before. And the reason I know I stopped there is because it took me a long time. The whole thing scared the hell out of me. But after several months, I did decide, okay, I'm going to stop there and see whether or not behind those trees I can see the things that I thought that I saw when I had this experience. And so I could describe what was behind the trees or bushes, which you couldn't see from the highway. And it was exactly as I had experienced it. So there was a farm in the distance, fields. It was exactly how I remembered it. As I said, I lost 24 hours, drove to Basel, unloaded my
Yeah.
truck, interacted with the people there, of which I have no recollection, got back in the truck, went to a restaurant, had dinner. From there, went to a hotel where I spent the night. Next morning, I got back in the truck, and I regained consciousness when I got close to the city of Heidelberg, which is basically my second hometown because we used to go there on vacation.
So
The-
this
the
is
whole-
you.
the whole
You got in
exper-
the truck, and
Hold
then
on,
you
hold
met
on.
it, and then the moment you met it is when you lost. I'm just trying to get the story straight.
I basically lost consciousness. I know a few things that happened along the way. I don't know everything. So I was missing money that I still to this day have no clue where that went. Because we have a device in the truck that will record what we do. I can see that shortly after I got back in the truck, I started driving at maximum speed, which is 40 kilometers over the speed limit in Germany. And I stayed at that speed for the entire time to Basel and back. So the car that it's registered on, I took that and replaced it with another one so my boss wouldn't find out, so I wouldn't be fired on the spot because I wasn't allowed to do that. And it took several years, and the only one I actually told about this was my girlfriend at the time. She knew about it. And then in 2001 or 2002, I was accompanying someone to a psychologist, psychiatrist, and so she saw colors, and he explained this to her. This is your brain trying to calm you down. And at some point, I finally worked up the courage and I said, "Hey, I got an experience," and I told him about it. And he basically told me, he asked me a few questions about my life at the time, which I answered. And then he said, "Well, see, this is a period in which you had a lot of stress because it wasn't going good in my relationship. I didn't like the work that I was doing. I didn't like the hours. I didn't like to be away from home." And he said, "So this is basically your brain shutting off at a moment where you couldn't take it anymore," and just showed you pretty pictures. At the time, I was heavily into shows about aliens. So that is what I saw. And to me, that's a perfectly reasonable explanation. So at this moment, if you would ask me, did you see an actual alien? No, I don't think so.
Oh,
But
that's a shame.
It was 100% real. It was as real as I interacted. The things that I do remember was interacting with that alien the same way I would interact with people on a daily basis. It was that real, which is why it scared me so much. But I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
extremely odd.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't real. It was just a fiction of my imagination. So, and I'm fine with that. Seems like
Have you ever
perfectly-
had maybe like a strange deja vu experience, or maybe like a dream that was a little too on the nose for you?
No, to be honest, no.
Because when I was, I've always been very, very skeptical, but when I was 16, and this is the only time this has ever happened, I had a premonitory dream that I just couldn't really deny it after I woke up and then experienced what I experienced in the dream. And that's always really stuck with me as something that I'd like to try and make sense of one day, but I don't think I ever will.
It's another thing that we haven't investigated a lot. I think there are. So the woman I accompanied to the psychiatrist, she had a book from a pupil of Freud, and this was a book that would explain dreams. Now the way she used it was the what we would call the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Shooting an arrow and then drawing the bullseye around it. She
Oh yeah.
and confirmation bias. So she would look for things that would look similar to the things that she dreamt, and then come to a conclusion. Okay, this is what happened, knowing that there had been an experience in her life, and it would fit that experience. So she would just look for things that would confirm already what she already knew. And I wish I was that much of a critical thinker back then as I am now, because I would have argued with that book a lot more than I did at the time. On the other hand,
yeah, I'm a huge fan of dreams. It's just they're very personal.
Yeah,
it's tough to really figure out most of the time.
On the other hand, it did seem to help her with her mental problems at the time. So whether or not it would have been good for me to argue with it, for her, it might have been a tool to cope with reality. So
yeah,
I don't think it's always a good
as
thing.
a counter argument, there are some objective things about it. I mean, it's very odd, for example, that so many people have dreams about teeth falling out. Or not being able to brake on a highway, and oftentimes those can have common roots.
What I wanted to add to the whole thing is, and I said this earlier in this AMA. My best friend is a Christian. He's a Syrian refugee in the Netherlands. He was. At some point, he was employed at the national TV, but he was really vocal about his Christianity, which got him into trouble to a point where he was arrested and tortured, physically and mentally tortured, for about a year. And I've seen the scars, so this wasn't made up. I've seen his body; it's full of scars of that torture, and so to him, the belief in the Christian God is something that keeps him going. Now, do I want to take that away from him? No. Would I want him realize that maybe his beliefs aren't grounded on the evidence that he attributes to it. Yes, but I'm not. As I said, I'm not going to actively take it away from him because I don't know what the impact would be on his mental health if he didn't have this tool to cope with it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I don't even argue with my friends who are alcoholics because sometimes I can see, like,
Ooh.
they're an alcoholic for a reason.
And it's so
It's
I've
hard
had
to really say what people need at any given time.
Yeah, I've had a friend who was an alcoholic, and his life went to total shit because of it. It's really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
and I still have compassion, even though he has lied, he has stolen, he has done pretty much everything that you wouldn't want a friend to do. But I can see
I think-
why it happened, and I
Yeah.
know that if it wasn't for him craving the alcohol, he would be a completely different person. It's hard.
Ultimately, it's just, we can't help people as much as we want, or as
And
much as we wish we could.
yes, and there's not an opportunity for professional help to step in the way they may want to at times, because it's still voluntary if you want to seek help or not.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And that
That kind of
that's a
stuff
tough
makes
question.
me wonder about free will a lot.
It's a tough question because if you want to force people to get help, when is it allowed, and what are the circumstances that would make it okay for other people to take over your life? I mean, that's a really
And I don't
hard...
even know if that's proven to really help anybody. There's no good examples that I know of that.
It's not a hard science. It is literally a case-to-case thing that you would need to evaluate, and that is going to make it a lot more difficult than just drawing a line.
Well, there's an audience. Since you're a very open person, I think it'd be interesting to know if you listen to any speakers or anything like that. Who are some people you really like to listen to?
Well, for one, and it's the reason why I offered to work for him. I like Aaron Ra and the work that he does a lot. I like the people he invites. I produced the show Matter of Fact Science, in which he has people from all fields of science to talk about things. It's not even his show. It's his wife's show. He came up with it, and that is one of the things. The people he has on are fascinating people to listen to. I mean,
I think I saw him when I googled your name.
See, this is something that strokes my ego. People googling my name and then finding out about Aaron Ra. I would think it would be the other.
Into the chat. It's like,
I would
argue with this guy. Well, I gotta find out who he is first.
I would think it would be the other way around, because I'm not, by far not as famous as Aaron is, and I the work that I do doesn't compare to the work that he's doing. A lot of people don't know this, but he is the most hardworking atheist YouTuber that I've come across. He works all the time. I know how busy his schedule is because I work with him, and the fact that he will still take hours out of his time to go on tiny channels if people invite him for a conversation. Doesn't matter if it's a Christian, atheist, Muslim channel. He will 9 out of 10 times, if he can make the time, he will accept. And to me,
he's gonna do an AMA here, man. He gave us some time. He's awesome.
I still want to know how you got him to go on Discord, because I've talked to him about it a lot and he didn't want to do it. So
I just said if you need help, ask.
I'm definitely going to be there for that one. And
Oh well, we've got some other hands up, so I think I'll go. I thought this might have been dying down, but maybe there's some more people if you're interested in talking to them.
yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming up, and thanks for your questions. Good questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good talk. It was good to meet you. Bye.
We've got
Likewise.
Stan Marsh up next, I think. Let me double check. Yeah, it's Stan Marsh up next.
Oh, hey, Peter.
Hi, Stan. What's up?
Nothing much. Can we bring Butters up as well? We're like a package deal. We have a question for him.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
You want Eric Cartman up too?
No, we don't need him.
That's okay. You can leave Eric to himself for now.
Stan, one
Eric.
quick question. Do you go by any other name other than Stan Marsh? Because your voice does sound familiar. Can't place it yet, but
No, I don't go by any other name.
we don't know each other from.
No, I don't think we do, Peter.
Just curious.
I would like to know you more, to be honest, Peter.
I mean, I'm easily approachable. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Discord, and I'm on YouTube. So tons of places.
Yeah, I
to get in
checked out
touch.
your channel because like everybody else said before they got in here, I was like, "Who the hell is Peter DeTucker?" So I had to go check it out. And seems like you're an atheist YouTuber, huh?
Yeah, that would pretty much sum it up.
Okay, well, good, because a lot of people in this server like to tell me that I'm condemned to hell for being a homosexual.
Nah, you're not. First of all, there's no hell, and second of all, there's no reason to condemn you. I mean,
That's kind of why he brought me up too.
I live with 2 women who are bisexual.
You live with 2 women?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Butters, the floor is yours if you like to talk about homosexuality towards Peter.
Well, yeah, the reason he brought me up is we kind of wanted to know your opinion on, because a lot of people in here have very harsh opinions towards gay couples like me and Stan.
Mhm.
So, since you're an atheist, I mean, I'm sure you're fine with it, but I was wondering what you think of the people who come to me and Stan when we go on these like random like calls and stuff and say not only we're condemned to hell, but we are like the reason that the education system is like currently failing because of what they're teaching kids in schools.
So,
You know
and
what I
this
mean?
again, this is my personal opinion. I think that sexual preference is also a gradient. I've seen people who are bisexual in different stages, if that makes any sense. I've seen people who are completely homosexual. If you
Have
look
you
at-
ever experimented with a man?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No. Although I don't know if you know the famous Ron White quote.
No.
Ron White is a comedian who was talking to one of his friends, and he said, "You're gay," and his friend said, "I'm 100% heterosexual." He said, "Oh yeah, so let's test this." He said, "Do you like to watch porn?" And his friend said, "Yeah, of course I like porn." And he says, "So, and when you watch porn, do you only watch female on female sex?" He said, "No. I'd like to be a guy too." And he said, "Okay, well, when you say you like to be a guy, do you want to have the guy have a small penis or a big hard throbbing?" He said, "Yeah, big hard throbbing cock. That's it." And he said, "Okay, see how gay you are." So I thought that was kind of a funny joke.
That's
Yeah,
a very
me-
relatable joke. As someone with a small penis myself, I like the bigger ones to make me feel better.
That's why he's with me. When he gets down and dirty, it's because it's hard. He can't pleasure me. I can pleasure him. He can't pleasure me. That's kind of the issue we have going on here.
Yeah.
So, Peter, you don't think that...
Hey, well, I think we need to pull this PG-13 this.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Me and Pete. Once
A
me
little
and Peter,
much.
Taco,
once me and
this
Peter
is
get in a roll.
where the US
Sorry.
needs to catch up with the Netherlands, because there's a lot more allowed here when it's PG-13.
We got TOS though. TOS is
I know,
global, man.
I know.
Sorry, Peter, we'll tone down the Peter talk.
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you.
So Peter, you are not one of the people who believe that like the LGBTQ plus community is full of. This is going to be a bad word to say, but sexual predators /
No,
you know where I'm going with this.
no.
And
no.
indoctrinating the children.
As I said, I live with what you could say is two gay women. I've got a lot of gay friends. I've got trans friends. None of which has ever even hinted at what they accuse them of, grooming kids or being sexual predators. And if you look at the numbers, it just doesn't add up. The people who attack kids, while there are both gay and cis people with their personal preferences when it comes to kids, it is not because they want to groom them or whatever. That it's all about their own personal pleasure, and it has nothing to do with their sexual preferences when it comes to gender or sex. At least that is what the numbers show us. And I think that as long as anyone can come up with different numbers and back those up, that we have to go with what we actually see today. We see more religious people, and when I say religious people, I'm talking about preachers and pastors and things who seem to sexually violate kids than we would see trans people, for instance. I know of no single case of a trans person. No one has ever presented one to me.
No, I completely agree. It's just every time I go into the religion chats here, all the religious people seem to think that the LGBTQ community is just full of people like that and that they're no good. And they make all these wild accusations and claims. And as an atheist YouTuber yourself, I figured you'd be in agreement with me. So I want to ask your opinion.
Yeah. I mean,
what about is talking about drugs against like the Discord TOS? Taco, you would know.
I believe so.
God damn it. I mean, God
I
flip.
think if it's legal in California, you can talk about it. But if it's like not legal in California, I don't think that's okay.
Wait a minute. If the main guest is in a country where some of the drugs are legal, then okay to talk about it?
Because I just know that Peter.
I think we have to abide by California standards.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Square, if I'm wrong, correct me in AMA discussion, please.
I just have a feeling, like, Peter, this is not based on your look or anything. I have a feeling you love smoking the wacky tobacco here and there.
And
I think that's recreational in California, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that's where you're wrong. I tried it twice. The first time it didn't do anything for me, and the second time I was sick as a dog, so that for me was a hard stop, and that was just smoking some weed. I've never done anything stronger than that. I even hate taking certain medication. Because I don't like it. I also grew up in a liquor wholesale business, which my dad owned. And so from the age of 4 or 5, I just got to taste everything new that he was selling. So at a later age, I found myself not being interested in drinking alcohol at all. And I don't, because I have a lot more fun being completely sober and watching everyone act as idiots. But that's personal preference. I do smoke, though.
No, I hear you. Oh, like cigarettes?
It's something that I would love that I could just leave that behind, but sadly I can't.
Oh, it seems we pulled up Eric Cartman. If he wanted to say something. I think he's muted, though.
Oh, he's server muted.
He's server muted. That's not a... All right, Eric, what do you have to say? It'd be nice.
You guys should keep going for a minute. I gotta collect my thoughts.
Okay. Wait, so Peter. So you said you're not like a man who is into drugs at all. So do you think people who like take medicine for their mental illnesses do you think that's like a good thing or a bad thing for them to be like pushing medication on children?
No, so if it has shown through research that it works, then yeah, definitely they should take that medication. I'm all for that. I mean,
I'm
the,
against it.
there are several kinds of medication that can help with mental illnesses. So yeah, that's a beneficial thing. As far as
No,
I'm
I
concerned.
agree that if the kid has an issue and that the
Mm-hmm.
medicine has been scientifically proven to fix it, there's no problem with pushing the medication. But
Exactly.
Eric Cartman seems to have an issue.
I think
Would-
the only medication needed in this world is Mary Jane.
Well,
It has solved all of my issues in my life.
That's strictly subjective. As I just said, I was sick as a dog, so it didn't solve anything for me. It caused a problem.
So Eric, you're heavily against big pharma.
I'm very heavily against Big Pharma.
well,
That-
big pharma, they could be pulling some things behind the strings, for sure. Like they could be,
There's
puppeteering people. But
that I think that is a bit nuanced because and I forgot which medicine. Oh, the whole thing with the insulin that was brought up by someone
Right.
pretending to be a pharmaceutical company on Twitter after Elon Musk took over. The fact that they ask, I think 500% of what it actually would cost to produce and make a profit. I'm against that. I think that we should have some kind of regulation where you can make money off of your medicine, but not to a ridiculous amount where people can no longer afford it who need the medicine. So
right,
not-
so you're talking about like an individual, like almost scam artist type person you're saying on Twitter, not big pharma.
oh, there was someone who pretended to be a pharmaceutical company, and they said they were going to give away insulin for free. And then the actual company, this was because Elon Musk gave people a blue tick, which is
Oh yeah,
what
on Twitter.
was until then a verified account, but they now could
Mhm.
buy that for $8 a month, and so everyone started pretending to be someone else.
Ooh, I definitely
But-
took advantage of that check mark.
Yeah, so but that's what brought out the issue, and the good thing is that the pharmaceutical company lost millions over this because it was brought to light that they were doing this. So that's the
Let's
kind
talk about
of
Martin Shkreli.
that's a kind of big pharma that I'm against. So you can make a profit, but don't raise your prices to a ridiculous amount where people who need those medicine on a daily basis can no longer afford it.
I feel like accepting some sort of insulin off of Twitter is like a gateway to just being addicted to heroin in like the next month. I feel like if you're accepting like needles, I mean,
yeah,
it's
but
not
it
gonna-
wasn't.
Are you talking
it wasn't.
about
It
Kenny?
wasn't. It wasn't offered. It was pretending. They were pretending
Yeah.
that the company was now no longer charging for it.
No,
got
I see.
free
Yeah.
insulin from
So
them.
they weren't actively
turned out
giving
fine.
anything away. They just said that the company would stop charging for insulin, and the company had a hard time.
Wait.
Rolling
Peter,
that back.
Peter, are you talking about Martin Shkreli?
Say again?
Are you talking about Martin Shkreli?
I have no clue who was behind the account.
Oh, okay.
I heard his name was like Michael Dion or something like that.
I have no,
What?
I have no clue. I found it funny that the pharmaceutical company got exposed because of this. I thought that was really funny, and they deserved the millions of loss in their stock
Okay.
because of it.
Peter, now that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 South Park characters in here, have you ever watched South Park before?
No, as a matter of fact, I haven't. What I
Oh,
did
Peter.
do, however, I can at least offer some consolence. There is a Christian apologist who I think is a vile person, especially when he's talking to me. So I did make a video where I replaced all the Christians on his channel with South Park characters that I
Who is the
completely-
person?
the person that I'm talking of is going by the name Logical Plausible Probable, or LPP, or his real name is John Maddox.
Interesting.
Oh, Matt.
It's very familiar.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, like actually, yeah. Hold on.
I don't know why I know that name, but I know that name.
So he's
Logic. Wait, it was
he's done a
Logic
couple of
what-
debates on modern day debate, which is probably where he gained his fame. His own channel isn't that big. I think it's about the size of my channel. It could have grown in the past year and a half. I have no clue because I don't follow him anymore. But there are a few Christians that I think are just basically trolls. So the ones that I had in there was a guy called P. Mars. Another one is going by the name Jesus is Lord, Rebuke and Reprove. And so I had Praise I Am. I made several characters into.
Wait, so you get into these debates with people, like the Christian people, regularly, and you feel like some of them troll you?
At some point you come across a few who are just being basically dishonest, and I know it happens. We do this show on the politics server every 2 weeks, where there's a lot of over talking, and Taco can tell you that I'm one of the main culprits when it comes to that, and this is just because there are a lot of people in the panel. And I'm trying to do better, and Taco is helping me with that. Backstage, he will just rein me in when I quote unquote lose it. It is something that shouldn't happen. If you have a conversation, then you should be respectful, and you should be the way this is going. I mean, we haven't had any problems during this with people being disrespectful or over talking or cutting people off or kicking people from the stage. That shouldn't be necessary. And when that happens, if you go on a channel, and then in my case it would be a theist channel, and you get kicked just because they don't like what you're saying, not because what you're saying isn't correct, and then shout that they won the conversation because now they've kicked you and determined you to be a troll, then I lose respect. And then this is one of my bad sides. I will mirror behavior, and then I will troll you back. So,
Peter, what's
like
the most
that's,
like rambunctious thing you've ever done? What's like
to
the
troll
what's like
somebody.
yeah? What's the naughtiest you've ever been?
Have you broken TOS before?
no, as a matter
Well,
of fact,
don't do it now, Peter. I don't want
no,
you to get in trouble. You're
as a
good
matter
man.
of fact, I haven't. I think one of the things that I've done is YouTube recently came out with handles, so you could register your own handle, and
Yep.
Yep, my name
I-
is Boy with a Dirty Diaper. So I
Yeah.
Add your
Oh,
Yeah.
hey.
so I got my own handles obviously as quick as I could. And then I found out that there are some handles that were still available. I wasn't able to get Darth Dawkins, sadly, but I did get Praise I Am. And
But
I
who
got
got Darth Dawkins?
I at some point I got into a problem with Praise because he threatened to shoot a friend of mine. And
What?
so I made
Holy
a
shit.
Photoshop picture of a sheriff wearing only chaps, nothing underneath. I did cover it up.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
I did cover it up with a tiny flower.
Okay, yeah.
So it wouldn't be too bad. And then send him the picture. And he went on a tirade on his channel, which I then downloaded, put some nice music under it, and have some speech bubbles come up, and then at the end showing the picture that I actually sent him. If people want to check it out, youtube.com/ at Praise I Am. The video's still on there. And so people who troll me, I will troll them back. I also own
Couldn't that be taken as defamatory?
It's just a joke. I mean, it's a
Peter
joke.
spitting.
Yeah, just some goofs and gas.
I mean,
that's all it
I
is.
do graphics. I do the graphics for my own show. I do the graphics for the shows that I produce on
Creative.
our NOS channel, on Jackson Wheat and Jefferson Spatchcock. Created a ton of graphics for several other channels. Godless Engineer at some point had an intro that I made. Most recently, I made an intro for a Christian, a guy called P-Town. I don't know if anyone has come across him before. He seemed a reasonable person, and he was talking about wanting to have an intro, and my co-host at the time said, well, Peter's going to make you one. So since he already promised him, so yeah, I made him an intro. I mean, why not?
Wow, you're creative. Wow.
I also have made several stings and a logo for a guy who runs a 24/7 stream against Kent Hovind, a guy called Mark Stoney. Also got some of my artwork because I like what he do. I support what he's doing. So,
Oh, Peter, what are your thoughts on NFTs?
I think it's ridiculous.
That's a good question.
I think it's ridiculous. How
What?
you
I paid
can-
off my mortgage with the one though.
I mean, I get it. I get it that
I love NFTs.
you can have copyrighted artwork, but the whole NFT thing, that's something that I don't get. I mean,
Dude,
it's-
I hodled in March and then made bank in May.
I've made
What?
artwork. As I said, I've made the video on LPP, and I've given that to several people to use in their videos. There's another thing that I've made a long time ago. Some would consider him an atheist. I don't, and he doesn't want to be called an atheist. A guy called Steve McRae. I don't know if he's.
Yeah, by the way,
I made
yeah, I was just
I made the McRae version of the Bohemian Rhapsody, also with all of my artwork in it, and a Bohemian Rhapsody with a slightly different lyrics.
I was gonna say though, you guys said what to hodl. Hodl means hold on for dear life.
Say again?
Typically means when you're losing a lot of money. Hodl, it means hold on for dear life.
Ah, okay.
That's when you're losing a lot of money, so you have to just hold.
I made a lot of money off NFTs.
I'd rather be one of those kids in New York that sells water for like a 50-cent upscale than like be like an NFT guy.
I made high six figures in just a couple months off NFTs.
Yeah, scamming people.
I didn't scam a single
NFT.
person.
Wait, you're the one selling overpriced water. How are we scamming?
I'm the one
Uh,
selling overpriced water. Eric is the one who's made a fortune off of NFTs.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
not scamming anyone.
I've made real close to 7 figures.
Oh God.
Is it like things you're proud of, or is it just like bullshit art that you don't even care about?
It's things I'm proud of, I'd say. I mean,
Like
some
what,
of them
bored ape
definitely,
pictures?
I've definitely like slacked off on some of the artwork, but for the most part, I think
Oh, you
I'm
make them?
quite proud. Yeah, I make them.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
With what, like an AI generator?
That's not necessary.
I mean, you have told me once in the DMs that some of them were AI. We're not going to get into the whole legal side.
AI art is
none
beautiful.
of them were AI.
AI art is beautiful concept art.
Yeah.
Do whatever the mind imagines.
Peter, do you have a modest lifestyle, or are you a man of like wealth and like? Are you a guy? This
I'm
this
the
might be against TOS here, but are you a guy that goes to like the clubs every once in a while and just starts
And that's
throwing haymakers?
that's a good question. So, as I said, I the whole experience with the aliens, I wasn't happy with the job that I had. So in 2000, I quit and I started working for myself as basically a graphics designer, starting making logos for companies. Back then, I made websites, stationery, stuff like that. And that meant, for me at least, that I had to take a 50% pay cut. And then in 2000, 14, I think. I don't know anymore. I got fed up with some of my clients, so I started working part-time, which meant another pay cut. And in 2019, I retired early, which meant another pay cut. So I don't earn a lot of money, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm doing what I like doing, and if I don't like it anymore, I'll just quit. And I so where I am right now, I can have the things that I think I need, which isn't an awful lot. I own 2 small cabins in the woods and a house in town that I rent out, and I'm pretty happy with that. I don't go on vacations anymore, but I take my time. In the Netherlands, scooters are really popular. When I say scooters, what you might want to be thinking of is Vespas.
The bird ones.
Vespas, not the kids' toys. But I like to ride those in nature, taking my camera with me, taking some pictures, looking at nature. That's what makes me happy.
Are you environmentalist or something?
Yeah, some would say I am. Some would say I'm not, because I do still own 2 large V8s from the 70s, which aren't good on the environment. Also, a thing I don't want to give up. But I do think we need.
What do you think about the Catholic Church?
Ooh. Well, I'm Dutch. One of the churches that is losing the most amount of members in the Netherlands is the Catholic Church, and that's because of how they're dealing with child abuse and moving around priests that have been found to engage in child abuse. I think we're at the point where that should be seen as a criminal organization based on the things they do.
Oh, really?
And should be prosecuted
I think that's
accordingly.
a little far.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too far. I mean, especially like I see where you're coming from, but like especially with like things like, I mean, in a school, you're like 20 times more likely statistically to be molested by your teacher.
Yes,
should we see that as a criminal
but
organization?
in a school?
I mean, what about like all the unions?
What
going
would
through it?
happen? What would happen in a school is not that the school board will then relocate you to another school and not.
They actually do that quite often.
Well, if that is the case, then
specifically,
then
I'm pretty young. I'm
if,
18.
If that's
so
the case,
am I?
Hold on. If that's the case, then the school board should be prosecuted for that as well, for the exact same reasons. I think the Catholic Church should be prosecuted.
So we should prosecute schools as well now.
No,
like I'm just saying. Like, I think you're just going a bit too far. You know,
you misheard. If a teacher is found out to having sexually abused a kid, and instead of going to the authorities, they move the teacher to a different school, then they should be prosecuted. If that comes to light,
the school or the person,
the people who move him, the people who keep silent, people knowing of the abuse and not going to the authorities.
Yeah, the school system, the school board.
Yes, they should be prosecuted as well for at least making it possible for this person, first of all, to abuse kids, and then cover it up.
Yes, so we shouldn't do that with the church then, right?
Yeah, we should do that with the church because that is what they're doing.
But you said to leave it as like a criminal organization.
Yes, I consider the Catholic Church at the moment. I consider it a criminal organization. Yes. Because of the amount of cases. Because the amount of cases that we now know of, where priests have been relocated, the fact that there have been several decrees where it is discouraged to go to the authorities, but let the church handle it, that is not where we want to be.
Teachers do that to students all the time.
Yes, and they should be prosecuted for it.
Should we see them as I'm just saying that, like, you're not answering my question. So we see them as like a criminal organization as well, though?
No, because teachers are not an organization.
But there's more cases, though.
Teachers are not an organization. It's a profession.
Teaching has one of the largest union jobs of all time.
Okay, and do you think that the union is engaging in covering up sex abuse?
Absolutely, unions are extremely corrupt.
Then they should be prosecuted as well. Easy.
Okay, so teaching should be seen as a criminal organization.
No, because it's not teaching. What you said is a union.
Yeah, but is being a pastor a criminal organization then? Being pastoring?
If you're part of
Preaching, rather.
if you're part of a specific religion, and the one at the top of that specific religion is actively putting out decrees in order to cover up child abuse, then it becomes a criminal organization. The Catholic Church is
If you're part of a union,
the Catholic Church is not just a church. It's an organization that has tons of real estate that are not related to the church. As a matter of fact, I before I got the cabin that I'm living in currently, I looked at another one where the piece of land that the cabin was on was owned by the Catholic Church and was rented out to people. That has nothing to do with the Catholic Church. That is just a real estate organization. So the Catholic Church is not just a religion.
But do you know why they do that?
To make money.
Yeah, exactly. But
and they have to.
Wait, can I finish, please?
They have to, because every single week there's a Catholic church up for sale in my country somewhere, because they can no longer maintain the building because people are leaving. So the tithing no longer comes in.
Exactly. So if they want to uphold their faith, they have to make money. In today's society, it's no longer faith that matters.
Hold on real quick. I have a more lighthearted question. Peter, I was looking. You said you live in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
I was looking up like women in the Netherlands, and I'm not finding anything over like a 5 or a 6. Is there any like hot mamas sneaking around there that I'm just like not finding?
Say what?
That's not against hot mamas. Like any hot tamales, any good-looking ladies. I can't find any good-looking ladies in the Netherlands.
I live with 2. So.
Oh, you think the 2 you live with? Oh, okay. So let's not get into TS here. But you said those women are bisexual. They're bisexual, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, when you say hot women, that's purely subjective. What you would think of as a hot woman could be completely unattractive to me.
Oh, nowhere.
So
I'm just saying like a generalized statement.
Yeah, there are a few.
I'm saying like yeah, okay.
I think we disagree.
Yeah.
I did a bit of research too, and wasn't a fan of what I saw.
Well, Eric, that's subjective.
I guess
because you don't find that woman attractive doesn't mean that Peter or Butters wouldn't.
Exactly.
I think that
I'm just saying the ones I've made. Peter could the 2 women that Peter lives with could be some of the most beautiful women on planet Earth. I'm just saying the woman I saw from the Netherlands, to me personally, look a little,
like a little
wacky, yeah. But I'm sure if they live in the Netherlands.
I mean, beautiful women can be a little wacky too. I mean, we've got examples of that.
I think every woman's wacky. Wacky
Peter,
in their own way.
Peter, here in America, we love our wacky women.
I bet you do. I bet you do.
Yeah, men actually.
When I grew up, I got the advice from several friends of mine: if you really want to have a good time, go look for a Catholic girl, because they will do everything. And they were correct.
Oh,
oh, so my boy was getting his show on the road, huh?
I mean, the reason I smoke is because that was the only thing my parents prohibited me from doing when I was growing up. That was the only thing I was not allowed to do, and I ended up being
laid?
Because then it becomes this thing that is going to give you an adrenaline buzz if you're going to do something that your parents don't like. Yeah, you're going to try that out.
But
it becomes a lot more interesting. I got to drink.
Sometimes you just got to disobey the parents and slay some fire kitty. You know what I'm saying?
I disagree.
I
I think you
mean,
should respect your parents all the time.
I've done a lot
At
of
all
things.
times.
I've done a lot of things
Gio,
my
you're
parents
naughty.
wouldn't agree with.
I'm a what?
Nothing.
Do I know you?
No. I'm just butter. I'm just butter. You don't know me. What were we saying?
Oh, no, too.
All right. Yeah, but speaking about women, I do think sometimes the ones that have like 4 bottles of meds on their nightstand are the ones you want to watch out for, but the ones you also want to get to know.
I was hanging out with this girl.
Oh.
She was a college girl, and went to plug my phone in. I knocked over 3 bottles of crazy meds.
Dude,
What a time
psychotic
that
women are
was.
preferable.
Yeah, I blocked her on everything. Couldn't deal with it.
I found a study recently, actually. Men
Eric,
prefer
why
psychotic women.
is that a bad thing?
Why is it a bad thing?
Mhm.
Trust me, if you had a conversation with her, you'd understand, my boy.
I'm just saying the fact that you knocked over medication doesn't mean
No, it
that
was just
the
like-
person
No,
doesn't
no,
mean
no,
that the
no, no.
person is
I would-
crazy or they
No,
might
she
they
was
might have a
like-
different way of thinking and different opinions on things that,
No,
that you
in
might have.
therapy for being like actually psychotic and bipolar and.
Do you think she could kill you?
Crazy.
But
Yeah,
Or she would?
but
yeah.
someone who is that is involuntary, right? It's not that is
No,
a
that
choice
was
that they
voluntary.
make.
That was voluntary.
No, you can't
Hold on.
you can't be voluntarily schizophrenic and bipolar. That is not something that you choose to be.
Make it, you make it.
Yeah, she obviously he knocked over those meds. She probably wasn't taking them.
I mean, that's just like saying I voluntarily have blue eyes. I can
I never
want to have.
said it was like a problem. It was just something that I didn't want to deal with, so I blocked her. That's all I'm saying.
Oh god. No, oh, Peter, you got Eric right on that.
Oh, Stan got kicked off. You should bring him back up. Yes, he left.
Oh yeah, Stan
Oh.
Marsh.
But I'm
think
curious.
Stan got back.
So, but Butter, you came up with specific questions about the gay community. Do you have any more relating to that? Because
If I were to get more into my questions with that, we would be breaking TOS so heavily it's not even funny.
yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, so that we're not gonna. Because I was gonna ask, it was gonna get a little bit more in depth about members.
Peter, do you
and-
prefer a bigger or a smaller Peter when he's hitting for bowman?
No. We already actually talked about this. Like
literally
Actually?
before you joined, we already talked about this, and we were told to knock
Yeah.
it off.
yeah, we cannot
Oh,
You
I'm
can't
sorry.
talk. You
I'm
can't
sorry.
actually. Yeah,
oh,
You
that's
can-
my bad.
you're good.
I prefer
can't-
a bigger man, but that's
We can't we
Okay.
can't talk about the Centurion from Monty Python.
Do you prefer? Would you guys rather grow 4 inches in height or 2 inches on your penis?
If I grew 2
Um,
inches, I'd be 2.5. So I'll take the 2.
I'll give you 4 for that one. Oh, my bad.
I'd
And
go
be 4.5.
I'd go with
I'll take that. Yeah.
I go with neither.
I'm already
I'm-
almost 6'3", so
I'm already taller
I
than
don't
my
need the height.
girlfriends, and I'm happy with what I have. So,
Girlfriends.
you
Multiple?
can please someone else.
Please avoid talking about your.
Give someone else 4
Yeah.
inches.
oh Willy Wagglers. You don't want us talking about it?
a little who's. Yeah.
A
No.
little-
keep keep the Magic Johnson talk to a minimum, please, fellas, guys. We agreed to be on our best behavior tonight.
I was not here when this whole situation happened, so I'm sorry
Hold on.
that I did not understand.
Hold on,
It's not
hold
allowed.
on. I know for a fact that I talk with Taco a lot, but I haven't been asked to be on my best behavior. I'm just me. I'm what you
Yeah.
get, and sometimes
I'm just
I
me too.
behave,
That was,
and sometimes I behave a little less, and I think that just
I think
adds
we're all
to
like that, you know?
a lot more.
I think we just gotta let it loose sometimes.
Because I'm behaving to the best of my ability in this
Yeah,
call right
I'm not
now.
gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, Peter. I'm a very misbehaved man behind
Me
closed
too.
doors.
I mean-
I'm very.
I mean, one of my girlfriends. So I live close to Germany. In Germany, there's a thing called FKK.
Oh.
If you want to try and Google
Whoa.
that, It's
I know all about the FKK.
the German name is Freikörperkultur, which basically means that if you go into a city park and feel the need to strip naked, you can.
Whoa.
Isn't there kids there?
Yes.
Oh, here we go.
That's an interesting.
Is there
thing to do.
is there any problem with a kid seeing a body? I mean, probably the kid has their own body. So
I mean, there's an issue with a kid seeing a grown man's penis.
why would there be
Is that
an issue?
controversial?
Depends on the situation.
Why would there be an issue with that?
What?
Yeah, whoa. Let's just no.
As long as you're not like
we're
jerking
talking
it.
Taco. This can't
Oh
be
my
against TOS
God.
because we're talking about
dude,
a cultural
let's
system.
backstep like 5 minutes.
Is there someone like going crazy on it, or is he just sitting there by
Oh
himself?
my God, bro. Chill.
I mean,
Hey,
Peter,
it was a good question. I really had to
here's
think about
here's
that.
Yeah, I've
here's
never
the
heard
thing.
about that Germany.
Here's the thing. As long as there's nothing sexual to it, I don't see why it could be a problem. If you're going to go into a park and have sex in the middle of the park,
Dude,
that's a problem.
all this is illegal in the dude. No.
Sorry.
Taco.
Let's skip it.
Oh.
I have a question for you.
PG-13, please.
I would like to know, like, so we're not allowed to talk about anything like sexualized or sexual.
PG-13.
So I can't talk about how I want a big man to hold me close and punish me.
No,
Yeah,
you
naughty
cannot. No.
I mean, as long
Eric.
as you don't describe it and you just generalize it, I don't
can't-
think that's a huge deal.
If
can't
that's the
describe
case,
how much of a
Eric,
naughty boy.
Eric,
I've
He's
been.
talking platonically.
Eric,
Listen.
Eric, basically,
PG-13 is like
you
a
want your
soaked up
dad
bottle.
to put you on the naughty step. I don't think that's going to go against TOS.
oh yeah,
My
Peter.
dad was never in my life, so I don't have to worry about it.
Well,
My dad got a little too close to my personal life, if you know what I mean. That's a generalized statement.
yes. I know all about that.
My dad actually did naughty things to me when I was young.
Okay. All right. Okay. Guys, PG-13 means like the farthest you're allowed to talk about is like a soaked up bottom at summer camp. So
That's
guys,
enough of the Joe Swanson references from Family Guy, but that's sad.
my bad. You can have the floor, Eric.
The soaked
No, I
up
don't want the
bottom.
floor. Everything I talk about is not really allowed. So
Because you got to reel yourself in. I told you to be
You,
behaved.
I'm
you just have
trying.
to be platonic. You just have to say it's platonic. It's not sexual.
I just really am very passionate for men.
No. I understand your passion. I get it. I'm a passion-driven man too. Peter is as well. It's very clear that everybody in here is a very passion-driven person to be in the politics server. But there are some things that are TOS that you just can't talk about, and you got to
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would fully-
like the
I would-
pedophiles in Germany showing their peckers.
I would fully agree that
That
the
you can't talk
things that I do on social media, I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about science. I'm passionate about talking about religion.
I'm passionate. I'm passionate about what I do on social media.
Your NFTs,
Oh.
you mean?
NFTs, money laundering, sex trafficking.
I was
So now you admit that you're scamming people, money
It's not
laundering.
scamming. It's threatening.
Oh
people.
man, come on! You
different, it's
can't be doing that shit, Eric. You're out.
Do what?
See,
You're gone, Eric.
Eric was a naughty.
Eric.
Eric was
it's
a
good.
naughty.
It's
That
good we
makes sense.
have you
He's-
here,
he's the most-
Taco, to keep things
He's the most
clean.
troubled of the kids, so it makes sense that Eric.
He is the
Well, he's the
naughtiest.
leader. He's the leader, though.
I told him to be on his best behavior. He clearly couldn't reel it in. I apologize.
Oh god, we need to get back to talking to Peter. Peter's just sitting here.
Yeah, he's
Sitting
listening to
here.
your nonsense.
Well, so
Is
so-
it get back to the Germany thing?
someone just
No, we
DM'd me and say, "Are you entertaining the trolls?" I don't think that anyone here has been trolling yet. At least if they have, they're not good at it because it didn't come across like that. At least not to me. I was just having fun.
No, we're not trolling. We're having
We're-
a genuine
we're
We're
actually-
conversation.
we're just strong.
Me and Butter-
Okay,
me
we
and
get
Kenny.
called trolls.
And
in here
even
every
and
day.
even and
Me-
even I have to say it, and even trolling when it's done good can be quite entertaining. I'm just saying.
me and Butters, every call that we join here, we get instantly labeled as trolls for literally like. So I mean, there's some times where I can see the reasoning behind it, but sometimes we just get called trolls because we have self-part profiles. Like that's the extent that they go.
Yeah,
Like we are having a genuine conversation with you, Peter, and we are trying to get to know you. And I wouldn't have raised my hand if my only thing here was to get muted. I wouldn't have wasted all my time to troll you. I would have got it done and over with and left.
Yeah, if we wanted to troll, we would just hop in here and say the most outlandish things and get kicked in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing.
That's what most
I
trolls
get.
do.
I can get how people. So you're both obviously, as you said, you're gay. You're outspoken about it. Then having South Park characters. I've come across Christians who would say that you're obviously just doing that because you want to troll people. You're not gay.
Exactly.
Really. You're just wanting to stir the pot. At some point, even if you were doing that, I think it would be justified just in order to have a specific conversation about certain topics. And so I wouldn't even have a problem with that. If it turns out that neither of you are gay and you're just coming on to have this conversation to maybe trigger some people, the people who get triggered by that probably have some issues that we need to talk about. So
I completely agree.
it's
Because me and Stan are together. Kenny joined in on our. I don't know anything about Kenny.
You literally
Yeah,
said my
honest,
name. What are you talking about?
I did not. No, I have no idea who you are.
I genuinely actually don't know Kenny. What I will say is that if
He
the
doesn't. He
if
other
the,
guy
um,
does.
if the conversation of homosexuality makes you immediately think someone's a troll or makes you uncomfortable, like you said, they clearly have other things going on. They're problematic
yeah.
as they are.
Why should it make? This is something that honestly I think is worrying. Why should it make anyone uncomfortable what someone else does in the privacy of their own bedroom? I don't see a point with that.
Yeah.
As long as it's done between adults and with mutual consent, they can do whatever I want. I follow a woman on Twitter who likes to have meat hooks put in her back and hoisted up. I can't see
Right.
how that would be pleasuring. For her, it is. Do I need to have an opinion about that? About what she thinks is good or not good in her private life?
I mean,
no.
I see your point, but like, do you think people should be able to kill themselves or something?
What?
What?
I mean, it's in the privacy of their own room. He's just.
Come on,
Kenny.
I think that's a far step from what he said.
Yeah.
I don't think at all. I think it's quite logically sound.
Well,
Here we
now,
They're not affecting anyone. It's between themselves.
I don't think it's going to help a case if you kill yourself for something. It's a stupid thing to do.
I understand, but it's
the
their
only
life.
thing
Why do you care?
the only thing you will be doing is you will be ending your life, and basically, if you want to make a point, you're going to end being able to make a point. So to me, it's one of the dumbest things to do. If you want to change,
Yeah,
the
it can be
world,
dumb, but
if you think you want to
Oh, yeah,
change the
dumb.
world, if you want to have people listen to what you have to say, killing yourself would be a really stupid thing to do.
Yeah, it's very stupid. I agree, but like, it's in the privacy of their home. It's their decision.
And this I mentioned earlier. If people, for some reason, want to end their life, that is up to them. Before that, if you want to have that assisted, then you would need some very smart people who can help you through that, guide you through that, see whether or not that is the only option that you could take. But I'm not against it.
That's unfortunate. Oh, we can move away. It's fine. I'd like to extend an olive branch. Eric Cartman, he just apologized and chat sincerely, and I think he should be let back on. What do you guys think?
I mean, with the admissions he made, I think I'm supposed
I think
to
they were.
detain
I
him.
think no, he didn't. Well, first of all, no. So, second of all, I think those were lighthearted jokes. I don't think they were serious. He obviously is in NFTs, and no one that does NFTs can do sexual trafficking. realistically.
What? The what? Dude, that is no. So dumb.
Yeah, Kenny, I think you need to calm down a little bit.
I mean,
Kenny, I think you're
Okay.
getting too frisky. Eric got too frisky. He got too big for his bridges. And
We say that because he's fat, you asshole.
I mean, no, but
no, because you
maybe,
can
but
take
we
that
don't
in
discriminate.
several different ways. It has nothing to do with body weight.
thank you, Peter.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying because in the show he's ridiculed for his weight all the time, sadly, even though he's big boned.
Yeah, thanks,
Well-
Kenny.
Well, then, Kenny, I have one question for you, actually. I'm not really saying I agree or disagree with anything. I'm just saying if you were to post your body on social media, do you think that gives other people the right to criticize you and ridicule you then?
In what fashion are you posting your body?
Let's say a woman posts
Butt
like a bikini picture and she is a very plus size woman. Do you think that that would give anyone the right to comment mean things and make fun of them and ridicule them? Because they are publicly posting that and knowing what could happen, and they posted it. So do you think that they are accepting any sort of negative criticism that comes their way by being a public figure?
I
Or do you
have
think
an
that they
answer.
have the right to freak out and get really upset?
I'm an incel, so yeah, I think they do deserve that.
I think they don't, and the reason I think they
Hero
don't
moment.
is because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There could be tons of people who like a picture like that, and just the
Mhm.
mere fact that you're not attracted to someone like that doesn't give you the right to body shame people, make fun of their body in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I don't see that. Not that I haven't been guilty of that while growing up. I mean, it's a part of life where at some point you come to realize that what you're doing is wrong. Because if we would live in a society where the standard of beauty would be plus size, then I would be made fun of because I've been a skinny guy for all of my life, and I have been made fun of my body all through life. So it just doesn't work. If you've got an opinion, great. You don't have to use it as a weapon against someone. That's where I think
Right.
it should stop you from being able to do that.
Right. I agree to an extent, but let's say like if you're a public figure, I feel like you're bound to be criticized, and everybody online kind of adopts their own persona because it's online, right? It's not face to face. So people are more willing to say mean things to you. People are more willing to act differently and say horrible things that they wouldn't say in real life with their camera on or with their face.
Okay,
So I feel like
it's
okay, go ahead.
For me, it's also a little bit more nuanced. So let's take, for instance, and now I'm going to completely derail everything, and everyone's going to go mad. But let's take Trump. Trump has made some pretty disgusting comments on people's bodies, and he apparently likes very fit, young, or at least younger women. I'm perfectly fine with making comments about Trump's body. If that is the standard that he will hold other people to, then yeah, I can. When it comes to commenting to this particular individual, I think we can use their standards in order to comment back. And we know for a fact that he doesn't like commentary like that. He's not too happy about it. I mean, if people comment on his hair,
yeah, I
he
agree
freaks
with
out.
Peter. I
If
mean,
people
like, I think
comment on his body color, he freaks out. I mean, if you think that you're allowed to do that to other people, then you have to be able to take the same criticism.
yeah,
And-
absolutely, Peter. But like, I mean, there's a lot of things you could say about Trump, and like he's 6'3", like NASCAR white, physical specimen. He has great reflexes.
He's as white as the background of your avatar on Discord.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said NASCAR white.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm Dutch. I'm not. I don't know what NASCAR white is.
It's like a Miami term.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm a Formula One guy, so NASCAR's not a real car sport.
Okay.
That was a joke. I know you don't get it.
I have Asperger's. I can't really understand situations too well. Sorry.
I don't understand situations too well.
Yeah, social situations.
Like what?
Like the joke you made.
Kenny, what the fuck are you going on about?
I have no clue what you mean. So explain. How is my joke a social situation?
Yeah, Kenny.
I wish I had brought my
okay.
soundboard because I do have the Jeopardy tune.
Yeah, we're waiting, Kenny. Come on.
Oh, God. Let off Kenny a little bit. Let him breathe.
He just got put back in a corner like the little dog he is. I mean, let him breathe.
Whoa! What are you implying? What are you implying?
Nothing. Nothing at all, Kenny.
How do you know me, Butters? How do you know me?
What do you mean? How do I know you? I have no idea who you are.
You said my name as soon as I joined, though.
What's your name?
You know me previously. How do you know me?
I mean, I clicked on your profile and it says your name's Geo.
Oh, okay. Well,
I've heard the whispers. I've heard the whispers, Geo.
Oh God.
We already get political, dude. Okay, we don't
No, we're not going to get political. I'm just saying you're a naughty man. You're a naughty boy.
Well, okay. I don't know if this is something we should get into because
No, we
last
won't.
time we talked about
not at the dinner table. Okay, not in front of the children. Okay, not in front of the 14 people watching.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
Chef
I'm
is here.
I feel bad for these viewers. If anybody else would like to talk,
Actually, can we bring Chef in here? He is quite the conversation starter. So I feel like he.
Chef is a very good man, and he's
Yeah.
a moderator here.
I actually know this guy.
At some point, will we have everyone from this particular comic on stage?
Well,
all the South Park characters are going to be here.
Well, to be like 100% transparent with you, Peter, I know Butters and I know Eric like personally. So Eric Cartman and Butters, I'm very familiar with them. Like I know them, but I didn't know Kenny previously, and I know Chef from the server. But if somebody else decides to turn into a South Park character, I have no correlation with them if they join. That's all I'm gonna say. Because for future people joining, I don't want to be held responsible for the horrible things they say.
I have been suppressing the urge to start up Photoshop and to make myself into a South Park character, just to be part of the.
That'd be fantastic.
Don't suppress your urges. Go.
You should play the Fractured Butthole game and make yourself as a character in there. Very good game.
The Fractured Butthole game.
Yeah,
video game.
Fractured Butthole, like BUTWHOLE.
Mm-hmm.
It's a South Park like role playing game. It's an RPG.
Ah,
It's actually really
And-
fun, really well made.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fun. It's a good game.
Who let Geo on stage?
Oh,
Who's Geo?
Oh god.
Who's Geo?
We should bring Chef up here. I feel like he can have some good.
I mean, he's a mod. He can bring
I
himself up here.
invited Chef up.
Oh, then I don't know.
oh, yeah. I have no clue then.
We should bring Aircraft out. I mean,
Bring everybody up. That's a horrible idea.
I said Eric.
Oh, I think you said everybody. I was like,
We can't
I want
invite
Zionist Jules
we
to
can't-
comment on this.
we can't invite everyone because we could get people up here that are just madly starting praising me. I don't know if that would be a good thing.
Peter, I'd stay in here and praise you for hours if I could, but I don't want to waste everyone's time. So.
yeah. If there are anyone else who wants to, genuinely, like anybody who's listening right now, if there's anybody else who wants to come up and talk to Peter, feel free. Like we can leave. Me and Butters are fine with leaving. We just want to talk to Peter for a little bit, but
Randy's
Thanks for
here.
coming up, y'all. Yeah,
Right.
Randy.
Let's bring up Randy.
Glories of the genius and eruditeness of Peter Drucker right now. I mean, I'm hanging on every word of his brilliance.
Thank you.
Was that?
Yeah, that was him.
Was that Darth?
He's a personal friend of Taco.
Oh, Randy, what the hell? Look at Randy's PFP.
Great. All right, that's my
Did
that's my
Darth
cue to
say
leave.
something about me? I don't think Darth knows me very well.
Kenny, aka Gio.
How do you know me, actually? How do you know me? Wait, how do you know
You're
me?
a Nazi. You're a Nazi. Keep going. Hail Hitler.
How do you know?
Taco, we can ask him.
I can tell.
Taco, we can ask him. So, Darth,
How do you know me?
Darth, have you heard of Taco?
Oh no!
Oh, I get goose pimples when I hear that name.
Oh no! All right, we got one more in queue. Thank you, South Park people. Smiley Miley.
Yep, thanks. I had a question about you remember me probably from the atheism talk a few weeks ago. I reevaluated myself, and I'm still a Catholic, but I'm taking a more active part of my religion, and I'm reading more about it and accepting that some things in the religion I don't agree with, and there's something called I can't remember exactly what it is, the Osher theory or something like that, that states that if you take together what the Bible says, the Christian Bible, the world was created 4,000 years ago, and scientists believe it was probably the Genesis was offered maybe about 400 years ago, 4,000 years ago. So I was wondering about your take
You're
on
wrong
that.
on the timeline there, because the Bible doesn't say the world was created 4,000 years ago. According to the calculations of Bishop, according to the calculations of Bishop Usher, it was a little over 6,000 years ago, and apparently he narrowed it down to the day, the time even, which.
Okay, well, Bishop who?
Bishop Usher.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is it 6,000? Or sorry, no, I mean in 4,000 BC, not 4,000 years ago.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's a little closer.
That's what I was talking about. The Usher, whatever it's called.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is
So I was wondering if you had any.
which is wrong, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Which is wrong, by the way,
He's
because
wrong?
because in several parts of the Bible they're using another numeral system, which is the base 60, and so the years and everything, they got that completely wrong. But that's a whole side issue that I don't know an awful lot about, but I know at least that explains how
what's the
people.
issue? I didn't hear you. That they got what wrong?
They got the ages of people wrong. So, for instance, Adam was supposed to have lived for, I think, 900 years or something, and that's not the case.
Oh, and we know that because
That time, at the time that was written down, they were using a base 60 counting system, and if you translate that to the decimal system that we're using currently, you get to an outrageous age, which is vastly incorrect. I'm not, as I said, it's not something that I've looked into.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that actually. Okay. The which culture would that be? Because I know it's been translated into a few different languages. It was using the base 60.
I have no clue. As I said,
that's fine. That's fine. That's interesting to know. I guess I just also wanted to ask, what is the thing that most strongly compels you to be an atheist?
The fact that I haven't been presented with any evidence of a god.
Oh, okay, but
the fun
like,
part
do you have
is,
anything-
and the
do
fun
you have
part
anything
is,
other than that,
hold on, Smiley. The fun
and I'm
part
not
is,
arguing with you. I acknowledge that there's no concrete evidence.
Mhm.
But
But
I
the
just
fun,
want to know, like, what's the thing that sticks out to you besides the fact that there's no evidence, like anything in the Bible that is contradictory or something like that?
the fun part is, I only started identifying as an atheist in 2015 when I created my social media. The way I grew up in a secular country, in a secular neighborhood. There, apart from there being one Catholic family living across the street who didn't share anything about their religion, I've never had religion anywhere in my life. And he fell off. So I didn't need to call myself an atheist because everyone in my community was an atheist, and I know people get upset when I use the comparison, but you don't call yourself a Santa Clausist when you stop believing in Santa Claus. There's no name for someone who doesn't believe.
Right.
So for me, it's still the default, and the fact that it has to have a name in order for other people to understand where you are. I get it. I still think it's a useless label because it doesn't apply to a group of people. It applies to just one single question, which a lot of people get wrong. I think that there's more to it. Okay, Taco, any more guests or?
Yeah, I invited up Infernesu. After that, though, I think it'll be a good time to start closing down. It's almost 9 o'clock Central Time. I think it's a good time to start closing down here. We've gone for, what, like an hour and a half now, I think? No, 2.5 hours?
Something? 2.5 hours.
Yeah. That's... I think everybody's been enjoying talking with you. We do appreciate you coming here, for sure.
Yeah, I've been having fun. I mean, to me, this was a blast. I at least got a few questions that I rarely get. And so, yeah. Anytime you want to do this again, I'm game.
I just put his YouTube in chat. Make sure you go there and follow him. Or you can also just click on him. Click on him, view profile, hit his Twitter and his YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe or follow or whatever the appropriate thing is. You can hear your fans. Oh, that was a demon.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't as scary as he
Cool.
may have thought it was, or she. They.
There's a couple quick AMA questions. Do you prefer vertebrates or invertebrates?
Being a vertebrate, I think I have to go with preferring vertebrates. Also,
Me too. That's fair.
The animals I like, most of them are vertebrates.
Yeah, that's fair. Why are you Arsler atheist? I think you just answered that, actually.
Yeah, because no one has come up with some good evidence for a god, and until they do, I have to not believe that one exists. And even if they do, it depends on the god that they're presenting. If I have evidence that a god exists, it wouldn't automatically make me worship one. Because I think the whole thing of being a god is that you don't need to be worshipped at all. Because if...
That's fair.
Yeah.
Why would you even care?
Yeah, why? If you can do anything you like and can have anything you want, why would you want people to worship
I need
you?
all the people in the world telling me that there's no one greater than me, and I'm the greatest of all the greatest, and I'm the greatest at this and that. And if they don't tell me I'm the greatest at everything, at every chance they get, especially 5 times a day for the Muslims, they're going to hell.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I'm with you.
I don't see it.
Me either. Another question: why is faith in God unreasonable?
That's an easy one. I'm an epistemist, so I think faith is the most dishonest position to hold. The reason for that is because there's literally nothing you couldn't believe based on faith. So it's not a pathway to truth. It is a form of self-delusion. And I think people shouldn't engage in having faith. Now, I know that a lot of people will say that, according to the dictionary, faith can also mean trust. Yes. But when talking to religious people, you will always find that the faith they mean is, I think it's Romans 1:11. And so that's where I'm going. If we're going to talk about trust is evidence-based. So I have no problem with trust. I have a problem with faith.
What is a verse like? Faith is belief in things unseen or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know the exact specific wording, but even if you look into a dictionary, there is a difference between religious faith and the colloquial sense of faith, and that's why I just first of all, in the Netherlands, in our language, we do not have a word for faith, so I grew up not having the entire concept. And so let's be more specific. Instead of faith, we can use trust. And hey, Ajax, how's it going?
Continue. I was really interested in what you were saying. So
yeah, so
use the word trust instead.
Yes, if we're going to be specific, even in a conversation, in just to make sure that we're not strawmanning the other person. If we're going to talk about trust, let's use the word trust. And if we're talking about religious faith, then use the word faith, because then at least we all know what we're talking about. Let's not conflate the two.
So what is the closest word in Dutch? Like when I look it up, I see geloof and vertrouwen. Do they have a slightly different meaning?
Geloof is just Dutch for believe.
Okay. And what about vertrouwen?
Vertrouwen, that is trust. So there are the two things, but instead of faith, we have the word belief.
Interesting. And yeah, vertrouwen sounds, I don't know if there's a connection between the Dutch and the English or other Romance languages, but vertro sounds more like the Latinate for something like verification, virtue, like more related to some specific reason that you would have trust, as opposed to just like blind trust.
Yes, it is trust based on evidence.
Yeah.
Although there is, so we have the colloquial usage of the word vertrouwen, which is basically the same thing as the colloquial use of faith in the English language, if that makes any sense. So this is where sometimes we have words for things that aren't specific enough, and that is why I'm an epistovist, and I want to be specific about the usage of a certain word.
Do you like William Clifford?
I haven't heard of William Clifford.
He wrote the Ethics of Belief.
No.
I feel like he's like the original epistovist. Because agnosticism is like a weaker version of what he said. He said, it's wrong for anyone anywhere to believe anything on insufficient evidence against stronger evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
Especially if there's any consequence.
I would agree with that. And to be fair, the word epistovist hasn't existed for a long time. I know.
Yeah, that's a newer term. Yeah.
Yeah, Kate Farr, aka Bionic Dance, came up with that word and the definition for it. Yeah. And the fact that that has made it into a dictionary, to me, is pretty cool. I mean, if you come up with a word for a specific position that wasn't there, it's incredibly cool. So kudos to Kate.
Yeah, I like the term too. I think that makes sense, because if you scratch a lot of different kinds of skeptics, their reason for all the different kinds of skepticism they hold boils down to something like, or similar to epistovism, which is to say, you know, any belief has to be gradually granted with the preponderance and accumulation of sought after evidence. You don't simply say, oh, that seems reasonable, and unless there's some like absolutely insane illogical problem with your saying so, then you're just rational for believing anything you want, right? Like a skeptic is someone who actually searches for information to find out if it is true, doesn't
Yeah.
just accept blindly something on weak or bad evidence.
No, and not just only because it sounds plausible, because things that can sound plausible can be completely wrong. And this is literally, I've done close-up magic for kids. Things that seem plausible can happen right in front of your eyes and be completely something else. Because that's close-up magic. It's fooling people.
Yeah. Did you ever meet James Randi?
No. Really sad that I never got that opportunity. I was really hoping while he was still alive that he would be on one of our shows so I could get to meet him. Because obviously living in the Netherlands, he's not going to be around here a lot. But yeah, I would have.
Yeah, I had the luck of meeting him at a convention really briefly. He's
Yes.
cool.
One of the few things, the things that he did against homeopathy, where he comes on stage with with a razor and talking into the razor, and then about 15 minutes in, he starts explaining to the people, well, you've been thinking that I'm talking into a microphone, but actually this is a razor, and he demonstrates that it's a razor, and people get fooled just because the shape is maybe a little bit like a microphone, and then he says, and you thought that I was wearing glasses, but there are no glasses in it. It was just an empty frame. People get fooled so easily with simple things. I mean, I've been in front of an audience and had I picked up a deck of cards, got one card out of it and make it fly over the audience, and on my command come back to me, and I put it back into the deck of cards. A lot of people would think, okay, how would you do that? Most people just see a card flying around with no explanation. Same thing with business cards. I don't have that anymore, but I used to have business cards in my wallet, and when I would hand someone a business card, I would drop it, and then by raising my hand would make it move up from the ground again so I could grab it and then give it to the person. No one ever figured out how I did that. But it's a really easy trick. People are fooled by a lot of things because we're not trained to look for specific things. We're trained to look for patterns that already line up with what we know, which is through an evolutionary process, that was a defense mechanism. Because if you were an ape sitting in a tree and you saw the pattern of something that looked like a lion or a panther coming towards you, it might save your life if you just fled. Whether or not there actually was an animal that could eat you wasn't the point. But the fact you survived, if it was making this a beneficial thing to the apes and later to the humans. And we see this to this day. We see faces everywhere. We see entire people in shadows, in reflections from glass, for instance. That's a thing. Doesn't mean that there actually is someone there.
Yeah, it's like pareidolia, basically.
Yes,
the
pareidolia.
seeing of patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not just pareidolia. That's what I'm saying. It's also things that we can see happening in front of us. That's what magic is, what magicians do. Fool people because they think they're looking at one thing and then completely ignoring something else. And I've done this on some of my shows as well, in close-up magic with cards. Tends to drive people nuts if you do it if you do it well.
I have a question about your show you did where you went through the Quran and spoke to Muslims and so on. Have you found there to be any particular approaches that are fruitful for talking to Muslims about the Quran, or any particular arguments that you think work even if they don't accept them?
It depends on who you're talking to. So every single person needs a different approach. This is why I support a lot of atheist channels, some of which have become a lot more successful than my own, because I don't think that there's one person or one method that is useful when talking to theists in order to make them realize that they might be believing in something that isn't 100% true. So I don't think that there's a standard thing. There are a few things that Muslims will bring up. Embryology is one thing, which I'm friends with P.Z. Myers, who has debunked that over and over and over again. I've had a talk
just like flaws. What about just like flaws in the Quran? Like, do you bring up plagiarism, and especially the example of like 532, where it says, if you kill even one person, it's as though you killed everyone, and it's almost an exact quote from the Talmud. But the Talmud, and it says the Jews were commanded this, right? But it says this about a quote from the Talmud, which isn't a command; it's just a rabbinical opinion.
Yeah, but
so isn't it weird?
I don't think that there's any religion who hasn't, in some way, shape, or form, plagiarized from another religion. And there's a good reason.
But they claim it didn't.
They claim they didn't. And this is what brings me to the reason, because if you want to have people adopt your religion, then adopt something into your religion that comes from their religion, and then pretend that you came up with it first. That's a good way of convincing people to come over to your side. And we've seen this. I mean, the whole canonizing of the Bible was basically to bring people together. There were lots of different Christian fractions that were brought together into one church because of the canonizing of the Bible, and then it was used to have a better control on a country. There's lots of factors that come into how a holy book comes into existence, and with the Bible being one of the latest in the Quran, we have maybe a better way of figuring out how it came together. But I don't think that there's any religion that hasn't taken things from previous religions just for that reason.
I mean, I would agree. The question is just, how does that affect their belief if they are confronted with the long list of plagiarizations, which they claim came from the angel Gabriel directly, right? And so far, all the Muslims I've talked to just double down on just pretending like it doesn't look like it's all copied from somewhere else. And when I showed them
there is
that Muhammad killed someone for accusing him of plagiarism, he had a guy put to death for doing so. They just like pretend that didn't even happen.
It's possible, but
wasn't it like his uncle?
No, it was another storyteller, because he was a storyteller, and another storyteller just said, "Well, look, I know where your stories came from. I've heard them before. These are plagiarized stories." And he was like, "Nuh-uh." And then the other guy's like, "Yeah, huh." And then later, when he got an army, he was like, "Oh, that guy, fuck him. Let's kill him. He accused me of plagiarism." And then they put that guy to death.
Hello.
It's possible.
Hey, I just came in like a second ago, but like, you guys talking about like the Quran and it plagiarizing other previous texts?
Yeah.
But aren't they all Abrahamic religions? So they kind of have the same stories, right?
The thing is, in the New Testament, in the Gospels, they acknowledge the scriptural origins of Judaism because it started with a rabbi, right? So Judaism and New Testament Gospels have a continuity of sorts, even though they have differences of theology. They acknowledge one another's tradition, basically, without much change. However, Muhammad claimed that he received... It sort of does. Like, it says that their book is corrupted, but
yes.
Muhammad claims that all his stories are the correct stories, but his came directly from the angel Gabriel.
Yeah.
So he doesn't acknowledge hearing or knowing the existing stories or basing his stories off of them the way that Jesus and Christians do. Like when Jesus says, Moses wrote of me, right?
I see the point you're making. So it is, while those stories might be in a previous religious text, he got them straight from the angel Gabriel and therefore isn't plagiarizing from the ancient text, but he's just writing down what the angel Gabriel told him. Therefore, it's not plagiarizing.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. That's what he claimed.
Mhm.
And so it's funny because the stories aren't the same exactly. They're different, but they're different in like random ways that you would expect a person who just memorized something but didn't have a written copy would make mistakes. And we know he was a story memorizer by trade. That's what he did. So when he doesn't remember the stories exactly, his excuse is, oh, well, I have the true story, the written down story that was actually written for thousands of years. That one is the one that they got wrong. But the one that the angel gave me is the correct one.
By the way, this
Even
brings
though-
something up. This brings something up that I wanted to ask Taco. Taco, we've got a spare spot on our panel. What we don't have is an ex-Muslim. Would that be a good thing? Because I can get you in touch with one of the panel members of Arn Ross Quran show, and I think he might be a really good addition to the panel. And
we
bring
can
in-
talk about that later. This is your time, man. We don't need to worry about that right now.
See,
This is your time.
I like to promote other people, which is why
Yeah,
my
just send
channel
me a
is-
DM about it.
No problem.
Sounds like a cool idea, though, Peter.
Yeah. Just send me a DM, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
So just to touch upon the things that you just said, if the prophet claims is he's a prophet of God and the revelation he receives is from God, then when he says my story is correct and your story is wrong, and he's receiving it from the angel of God, he would technically be correct, right? If we're talking about Islam, for instance.
If you just accept
So
the story as true, the problem is that
he would be correct if he could
No,
bring
I'm saying
some.
I'm talking
if he
about
could,
the concept. I'm talking
no,
about
no, no. I'm replying to that. He could be correct if he could provide some evidence that that is what actually happened, and he can't, which is the problem.
And
Well,
there's examples
the
like
problem
Quran
with that is
532.
it's like, oh, what
So
does Quran 532?
Quran 532 says, and I'm paraphrasing because it's from memory. It says, "It was commanded, God commanded the Jews that if they killed one man, it is as if they killed all of humanity." Right? And the problem is that God didn't command the Jews that. It's not in the Tanakh. There's no commandment from God of that nature, but it is an almost exact quote from the Talmud, which is the opinions of rabbis. Kind of like hadiths. There's hadiths where they say Muhammad said something, and then there's hadiths where Muhammad didn't say it. Well, if Muhammad didn't say it, and it didn't come from the Quran, then it's not God. It's just a person's opinion. And it's the same with the Talmud, which is the opinion of rabbis. So in this case, Muhammad is exactly quoting the almost exact word for word from the Talmud, which he probably heard orally from someone saying this out loud, and he didn't know that it wasn't the Tanakh. He didn't know the difference.
I definitely see where you're coming from. All I would say to that is the idea that Islam came to correct the previous text on what they got wrong and to like enforce what they got right. So it would, in instance, say you were told to do such and such. Let it be lost in time or not, let it be coded in a different way or shed in a bad light. It's just saying you were told this. You know what I mean? It's like in Islam, what you're referring to is a bad hadith, not a sahih hadith. Now, a text comes afterwards says, no, this hadith is correct. You get what I mean? I don't see it really as problematic.
The problem is the source.
I have a question for that.
Yeah.
If the Quran is the word of God, and if it is so clear, why do we need a hadith?
The Quran is the word of God, but the thing is, it's in Arabic. Arabic is a very like rich language that you can misinterpret a lot of stuff. All right.
Wouldn't
so
a God,
if you
wouldn't a God
don't
know
understand Arabic,
wouldn't a God know
yeah,
that?
that's why he
Wouldn't-
sent a prophet with the text.
Yes. So, but wouldn't a God know that not everyone on the planet speaks Arabic or ever will? and then make sure that the text isn't only there in Arabic, but it's there in pretty much every language, and not in a language that dies out.
Translate it. Like translating, there's no universal language that ever existed. It has to be
I'm
in
not saying
a language.
I'm not saying in universal language. Wouldn't the God have dictated it in Arabic, in English, in Dutch, in German, in French, all at the same time, so it could be written down in that particular language, meaning exactly what God wanted it to mean? And then we wouldn't need hadith. We wouldn't need apologists who were translating the Arabic for people who don't speak Arabic. When it comes to Christianity, the whole New Testament was written in Koine Greek, which is a language which is no longer in use. If a God is omniscient, then he would have foreseen the problems that he would get with translations. When it comes to the Bible, he would have foreseen that there would be tons of versions of this one specific text in English alone. God would have foreseen that and would have been able to make it sure that that could not have happened.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from, but the same point can be made to the counter argument. If you cannot have two texts in two different languages to mean the exact same thing, word by word.
Why not?
And we're talking about a full book.
Why not?
It just the limitation of languages. Words in Arabic do not exist in English, and words in English do not exist in Arabic.
I speak three languages. I can, if I want to make a point, I can make that point in three different languages.
But it wouldn't be the exact same wording or the exact same emphasis.
It wouldn't be the exact same. It wouldn't be the exact same wording because words don't have definitions. Words have usages, and so based on those usages, you can string a sentence together that means exactly the same using completely different wording, but it would be clear to the people who hear it that it would mean
if we're able to have
that specific thing. And it doesn't matter which language you're using, which wording you're using. You want to bring a point across, you can do that in any language, which is basically why we have language.
Not really. For example, why would we have, if you can't translate something from Arabic to English perfectly, there is no need for us to have multiple translations. And if you can translate the Bible from Greek to English perfectly, we wouldn't need so many English translations. It's just not possible to translate it perfectly from a language to another.
Do you speak Arabic?
Yeah, I speak Arabic. I'm Egyptian.
Name me one thing that you could express in Arabic, you could not express in English.
Okay. The difference between al-hub wal-ishq, for example. Al-hub, which is could be the direct translation to love, but al-ishq, which is like another level of love, for example, you don't have an exact word for it in English.
But you need only one word if you just use multiple words to.
No, in Arabic, there's a lot of words to describe different levels of love, different types of things. It is just a different language. It's that a lot of words cannot be translated like precisely.
Okay, so the thing is, and this is in English, you can say I love spaghetti, which means that you like eating spaghetti a lot. Which is where you use the word love. You can also say I love you to another person, which means something completely different because you're probably not going to eat them.
Yeah, the same thing exists, yeah.
Yes, but you can still, the concept that you're trying to convey, you can still do that in another language using the words that are used in that specific language. Because in Dutch, I could say ik hou van spaghetti. That means literally I love spaghetti.
I get you that there are things that are easier to translate than others.
It depends on how the structure of the sentence is formed that makes you conclude what the usage of the word love means in this specific thing. The same thing goes for there are other languages. There are languages where they have 37 different words for eyebrows. We don't have that. There's a tribe in Africa that has lots of different words for green, and they can distinguish between different shades of green, meaning by just using that word. We don't have that in English. We don't have that in Dutch or
Peter.
German. But
Peter, let me give you an example.
You can convey a concept still in your own language.
Yeah, that's what translations do. They just can't explain the full meaning of the word.
But I'm just trying to explain to you that they can. It's not the meaning of a word.
Right.
It is a concept. That
How many words?
It's a concept that you're trying
How
to
many
convey.
words for love do you have? How many words of love do you have in the English language?
For love, you have one word, which is love. I can't think of another word.
There's a lot of other words that are related. There's passion, romance. There are many, many kinds of words that are used to describe love other than just the word
these
love.
wouldn't mean love. These are just other emotions that are felt with love, not love.
No. If someone says they feel devotion for someone, if someone says they feel passion for someone, these are conveying ideas that are types of love. Like you might say that you're devoted to your wife. You might say that you're passionate about your lover, right? Like in a more intense kind of way. These all have different meanings. It's probably similar, right? English borrowed so many of these words from other words or other languages like French, German, etc., and has like 5-6 ways of saying almost anything.
Okay. For example, let me give you an example. In Arabic, and I am not like the best at Arabic, even though I'm born here. You know what I mean? But let me give you like 3 words. Al-hub, al-ishq, al-gharam. 3 different words. They would all be translated into love into English, but they would mean different levels of love, different types of love, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot translate them precisely, as the wording in English do not exist to translate them precisely.
The wording might not exist, but you can translate the concept, couldn't you? Just like I just said that when I say I love you to a person and I love spaghetti means 2 different things using the exact same words, you can still convey the concept of what you mean to say. The one means I prefer spaghetti to any other dish, and the other usage of the word means that you have a specific feeling for a specific person. There's no emotion.
I get you.
There's
In
no
that
emotion
instance it would work, but in others it wouldn't work.
Which is why I said, what can you name a concept in the Quran that you couldn't translate into English and try to get as close as you can in English in explaining why it wouldn't translate?
Okay. I'm trying to think of let's say I'll try to grab you one word.
It's going to be difficult, I think.
I'm not the best at Arabic. I'm just trying to
no one is criticizing.
Word that,
I mean, I never got past. I never got past Aleph, Bet, Ta, which are the first 3 letters of the Arabic alphabet, and I can say Abdal Amin, and I know that that's thanking Allah for something. There are a few things that because my best friend comes from Syria, he speaks Arabic. He also speaks Aramaic, and he tried to teach me, but didn't work.
Yeah, I get you. But the main concept that I would try to say is that in the Quran, if the Quran were to be revealed in, say, English, Latin, Arabic, you wouldn't be able to make two books in two different languages mean the exact same thing because the two different languages are different.
No, I'll answer your question. Could a God do it?
Mm-hmm. What?
Could a God do it?
Could have God done it?
Yeah. So are you a Muslim?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
God
Allah,
can do everything, so he could have done it.
Could Allah have done it? Is he powerful enough to?
The way I would look at it, no, it's just not something that is possible. It is a fallacy. If you're working within the parameters and the parameters don't allow for that something to exist, you cannot make that something exist within that parameters.
There are limits to what
it's
Allah...
like saying...
Hold on. There are limits to what Allah can and cannot do?
It's like the concept of can a God create a rock that he cannot lift? It's a fallacy in and of itself. You get what I mean?
It's not. It's not.
Could
that is
two languages mean the exact same thing when they
No,
don't mean the exact same thing?
This is the part that you don't get. I'm not asking for two languages that mean the same thing. Can a God express something in two different languages where it means exactly the same in two different languages? The words don't even come into this because you might need completely different words. As I said earlier, the word faith doesn't exist in Dutch, but the concept can still be conveyed through other words. The word,
but they wouldn't mean the exact same thing as faith.
They would indeed mean the exact same thing, despite there not being a specific word for it. The concept is what you're trying to convey. You're not trying to translate one word into another word.
Well, if only the concept is all that you're trying to convey, we have translations. God doesn't need to translate it.
Exactly, but wouldn't a God have provided us with all of these translations so that people over time who attribute different meanings to a word? For instance, the word gay didn't always mean someone being homosexual. That is a recent transition. That's a recent transition to where the word got a completely different usage. If something is cool, it doesn't mean it's cold. Another word that in I think in the last century and a half got this particular meaning attached to it, just based on the usage of people. So a God, an all-knowing, omniscient God, would have known how words would change over time, and he would have been able to provide us with his word in which it would have been perfectly fine for everyone to understand what he is saying, despite words gaining different meanings. And if not,
I get what you mean.
If not, then this God is limited, and according to me,
I get what you mean. I
get
where you're coming from. No, I wouldn't say that.
I would say that a God wouldn't even need a book. A God could have.
God wouldn't need a book.
No. If a God wants to convey something to me, he could just beam it straight into my head, and everyone would be born with the exact same knowledge of the God and the exact same source.
Yeah, God could do that.
Yes, but he doesn't.
And God can convey it in a book. He chose one over the other.
Which is the lesser form. Which is the lesser form, because now we have a book in a specific.
The lesser form for us.
Yes, because now we have a specific book, and just let's take the Quran. The Quran, you have to read the Quran in the original Arabic in order to understand it. That is what every Muslim has told me so far.
To understand it completely, yeah.
Yes.
To understand it completely, yeah.
Yes. So that's a silly thing for a God to do, to have his word, which he wants to convey to everyone on the planet, and then confine it to only people who speak Arabic and who speak Arabic well to understand what he is saying. He's
You can
therefore
understand.
limiting is
You can.
therefore limiting the amount of people who will have access to his word. That's not
If that would have been the case, there wouldn't be more than 1 billion Muslims right now.
the case.
It,
The
it,
case
it
why
is
the case why there are 1 billion
translations are
Muslims.
available.
The case why there are 1
Peter,
billion Muslims and even more Christians is a whole different thing. Because in my country, and I still live close to a church where you can still see the cages hanging from the steeples where they would, after torturing people who wouldn't believe what they were supposed to believe, were left to die. We see this in all three Abrahamic religions where people were punished for not believing. It's rampant in the Old Testament. It's rampant in the Quran. It's rampant in the Torah, where violence was used
I know that.
as a means of conveying the religion. If a God needs violence to convince people of his existence and that they need to follow his rules, then he's not a God.
You're appealing to emotions.
No, I'm not appealing to emotions. I'm appealing to what the concept of a God is. A God can do anything. So if he wants to convey the truth to us, he can do that without physical harm.
And he can do it with physical harm. It's up to God to choose what way he wants to reveal it to us.
If he's a malevolent God.
It's not for us to dictate how God reveals it.
If he's a malevolent God, he could use violence, yes. But then you can't say that Allah is good, because he wouldn't be. Because he's fine with torturing people.
Well, would God be malevolent if he makes a punishment for rape?
No.
He's using violence. Why not?
Oh, hold on. Now we're trying to get into two different things. I can think of a punishment for rape.
Well, you're saying God.
I can hold on. Time out. I can think of a punishment for rape, which doesn't include violence.
There's a punishment for rape that doesn't include violence, which is
incarceration and forced mental treatment.
Incarceration is worse than violence.
It doesn't harm you physically, does it? It doesn't kill you.
Enslaving a guy for some 50 years.
I'm not talking about slavery, because slavery is a whole different thing. That is owning people as property.
Imprisonment is pretty much the same as slavery.
It isn't. It
is pretty much.
It isn't. In prisons, you can't.
You take away pretty much all the rights.
Can you beat people in prison? Can you kill them?
You're putting them in an environment that they would probably be killed.
And
beside that, it's pretty much...
No. Can a government beat people or kill people while being imprisoned?
Can a government beat... No.
No. If I own you as property, can I do with you whatever I want? Including beating you and killing you?
Well, in the Western slavery, yeah.
So slavery is not the same as incarceration.
Okay.
And to the contrary, I didn't say just incarceration. I said forced mental treatment, which is, in my country, it is done to make sure that we can do everything that is humanly possible to make it so the incarcerated person can go back into society without being a danger to other people.
Why?
Because
Why would you want him back into society?
Because you want the whole goal of a social species is not to kill each other. And the fact that this is working, you can check that, because in the Netherlands, since we have changed our judicial system, over time, we have now run out of criminal people to fill our prisons, which has led us to a point where we are now renting it out to Norway and Belgium because we don't have prisoners enough. We don't have crime enough to fill the prisons that we've built over time.
So your punishment for rape, murder, and all that would all be imprisonment.
Imprisonment and mental treatment.
Mental treatment and imprisonment. Let's say murder. Somebody takes a life.
Same thing.
Your punishment is what?
Same thing.
How is that fair?
How is that fair? They get.
Where's the justice in that?
The justice is in the imprisonment, and the fact
No,
that
there's no justice in that. He took a life. That's not an equal punishment.
Okay. So what the opposite?
It's like you stab somebody and I give you a slap on the wrist.
The opposite of that would be the death penalty, which is not a punishment either.
Yeah.
No.
No, it is an equal punishment for an equal crime. You kill somebody, you get killed.
Yes. And so
it is an equal punishment.
So people who were taken out through capital punishment, how many of those worry about their punishment, do you think?
How many of them do what?
How many of them still worry about the punishment that they got?
I do not care if they worry or not. I'm talking about justice.
Yeah, there is no punishment. If you end
So you
someone's...
just mean retribution when you say justice? Isn't that what you're defining as justice?
If you end someone's life, the punishment also ends. If you put people in prison,
the
punishment only ends
the moment is your life being ended.
Yeah. I can tell you you don't care a lot about no longer having a life the moment you're dead.
Yeah.
Not a punishment.
Again, we strayed off a lot into this, but what I'm trying to say is
we did.
I kind of forgot what was the main point. But
I don't have a problem with that as long as the conversation is worthwhile having.
Somebody could argue that if God prescribes the imprisoning somebody, he would be a malicious God. Imprisoning somebody for an action they have done or a choice they have made in life,
because
he would be a malicious God.
Because
Same could be for any punishment.
Because the God would have a far better option. If the God that you propose is all powerful, he could.
I think me Master wants to talk.
If the God that you propose is all powerful, then your God could prevent the murder in the first case by convincing the murderer not to do it.
Then we're talking about heaven. Then, if God is all powerful, but he allows natural disasters.
Yes, which it makes the concept of heaven silly.
Yeah, this is not a perfect world.
Okay, so why did your God create it if it's not perfect? That means that he's not perfect. No. And if he was perfect, he wouldn't have created an imperfect world. And if he was perfect,
being is capable of creating an imperfect world.
If your God is perfect, he wouldn't have created anything.
Well, here's the thing. We're looking at it as perfect or imperfect from its usage. For us, for me, for example, it's all a test. It's a perfect world to be a test. You're tempted left and right.
You're missing the point.
That is the purpose of the test.
You're missing the point. Is Allah perfect?
Yeah.
So what can you add to Allah to make him more perfect?
Nothing.
So creating a universe with people in it doesn't add anything to Allah's perfection, right?
Nope.
Okay. Creating an imperfect world, that would take down something of Allah's perfection, because now we have a perfect God
Nope.
who settles for imperfection.
Well, it's imperfect. It's perfect or imperfect to the eye of the beholder.
No. It's imperfect or
example-
perfect. It's imperfect or perfect according to the eye of Allah.
Hey,
No, what I'm
sorry to
trying to
interrupt,
say
but
is-
we really need to start closing down here shortly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, Banam is your name. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Banam, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it, doesn't
okay.
matter.
So, is heaven perfect?
Yeah.
There's no crime in heaven, no murder, no rape, no nothing.
Nope.
So God is capable of creating something entirely perfect, and to have his people there, then he created this imperfect world on purpose, by definition, making him imperfect, because he's settling for something imperfect. And I don't care. It
No.
can't be a test. Because if
It's a
it's
perfect world for a test. It's imperfect.
who wants to
a
test
world
us? Who wants to
for
test us?
A reward.
Who wants to test us?
God wants to test us.
Aha. So your God's not omniscient. He doesn't know everything.
No, he knows the answer to the test.
Then why would
He
he
just lets
test
you have the
us?
test.
Then why would he test us? That's a waste of time.
Beats me.
It's a waste of time for a perfect being to do something that had to no gain whatsoever.
It's
At least
more
with Santa
fair
Claus,
for-
like at least with Santa Claus, we get a clear answer about why he's testing people, right? He wants to know whether they've been naughty or nice to give them the good toys or the lump of coal. There's like at least a
Yeah,
clear
it's-
theology implicit with Santa Claus, right? With the
It
Quran,
works
with the
similarly
Mohammed, with the Abrahamic religions, the absurdity of it all is too much, right? Anyway,
Well, it's pretty simple here. It's like the same way you implied it. You get judged based on your actions. If you've done more good than bad, you go to heaven. If you've done more bad than good, you go to hell.
yeah, it's a more messed up and confusing and nonsensical version of Santa Claus. Anyway, we got to wrap this up. It's been fun.
Okay, no problem. Well, it was a pleasure talking to both of you. Taco, thank you for adding me onto this panel.
No worries.
And, I'll see y'all later.
Thank you for
Could you put me back to the...
Yeah, I was.
Peter, you're awesome.
I had one thing, Banam. If you want to have a longer conversation, please DM me, and I can have you on my show, and I'll have an ex-Muslim as my co-host, so we can have a longer conversation. I'd be really happy to have you on our show. You seem like a good guy, nice guy to talk to. So just DM me.
Meme Master's had his hand up for a really long time, so I wanted to make sure to get him in here real quick.
Hello, I'll just keep this short. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, Meme Master.
Do you ever think? Hello. Do you ever think we'll have a modern U.S. atheist president? And why haven't we had one yet?
So first of all, there are still states in which it is forbidden for an atheist to hold office. So some of the ancient laws should be changed. As far as having an atheist president, you had one for 4 years. So I think that's that question answered.
Who are we talking about?
Trump.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
I mean, it's a good question, and I would love that we would have had a different atheist president, but here we are.
You're awesome. Thank you for giving everyone your time. I'm going to start closing this down. Do you have any final words?
I love to have had this opportunity, Taco. I can't thank you enough for making this possible. This is something that, as I said on my channel, I've been hoping to have with several of my guests over time, and that hasn't really happened. So the fact that you made this possible is awesome. And I know I said we could do about an hour and a half. We're coming up to 3.5 hours, and I enjoyed every single bit of it. So thank you a lot for having me get this opportunity. And I want to throw out a thanks for to Frustrated Atheist, one of my dear friends that I don't talk to as much as I would want to. I've been streaming this live on my second channel. I'm gonna go for some more. So if people want to go back and listen, it's at gonna go for some more, one word, and they can watch the entire conversation. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you again. I'm closing it down now. Take it easy.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Okay, so that was it for my AMA. I enjoyed it a lot. Russ, thank you for sticking around this long. I really appreciate that. I know this channel doesn't get a lot of views, so having at least one person sit here from the start to the end, that's great. And we need to get back and have a conversation off air sometime. And for everyone else who has sat through this 3.5 hours or is going to sit through it in future, thank you for your time. Please subscribe to this. I might be doing more things that I'm doing on Discord, putting it to this channel. I've been thinking about that because I'm still part of the panel every 2 weeks on the politics Discord server. So I might be streaming that on this channel as well sometime in the future. And yeah, for other things, hop over to @GonnaGoForIt and subscribe there as well. And we'll see you all